What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Blazers Uprise Postgame show powered by BetUS. Today, your Portland Trailblazers come off a 5-game road trip and lose at home to the Miami Heat 119-98. This was a game that Miami controlled for the better part of it, despite a Blazers third quarter run behind an Anthony Simons heater that took a 20-point Miami first half lead down to a one-possession game, but the Blazers could never quite get over the hump. And after that run, the Blazers struggled, man, and this ended up being a 21-point loss. The Blazers fall to 13-25 on the season. Eric, what's going on, man? We hopped in this call like 2 seconds before we went live. Hopefully everything's set up correctly. How's your weekend treating you?
Oh, just dandy. It's going okay. This game is kind of weird, but yeah. Blazers ultimately get blown out again. Yay.
Hey, man. I don't know. The Blazers are. I don't know. I don't really know what to make of this game because they just seem dead. They just seem dead today, man. Like, I think the theme from this game was they got out-hustled and also the difference in ball movement. I think those are the two main themes from this game that we're going to talk about tonight. And also there is an assistant coach on Miami that I think is the guy that I want to replace Chauncey with going into next season. And you just see the way...
Because of 2K?
No, not because of 2K. Not because of 2K. I wouldn't know who he is because of 2K. But I hired him in 2K. I hired him. I fired Chauncey, and I hired him. And I sent a screenshot to our group chat. That's what Eric's talking about. So, yeah, there's a guy by the name of Chris Quinn, okay? I just want somebody from that organization because you see the way that Miami moved the ball tonight, and I just wish you had something similar in Portland, man, because you had stagnant offense on one end that seemed to be completely discombobulated, completely disorganized. The Blazers got into the game because Anthony Simons hit some ridiculously tough shots. It was nothing that the offense orchestrated. And then you look at Miami and just the way that they have the Blazers scrambling defensively all game long. They had 21 assists in the first half, man. 21 assists is like, 21 assists is like a normal game for the Blazers, it feels like. But Miami, 31 assists on the game, so they were a little bit worse in the second half, but got off to a 66-48 halftime lead behind just some sparkling ball movement, and they got good shots all game long. You can look at the three-point percentage and say Miami just made shots. Well, Miami got a lot better shots than Portland, and oftentimes that's what games come down to. The Blazers got a lot of their own misses, 16 offensive rebounds. They fought on the glass, but in this game, there was a few players that just felt a step slow all night on both ends of the floor, and I don't really know what to make of that because it's one game. You just came off a 5-game road trip, but I was hoping they'd come home and look a little bit more competitive outside of that third quarter run they went on. The rest of this game was pretty much a snoozer.
Yep. Sums it up well.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about Shaedon Sharpe, okay, because this was a bit of a rough game for him. We're going to talk about Scoot. We're going to talk about plenty of different things. Luckily, one thing we don't have to talk about is a season-ending injury because there is a play in this game that scared me it scared me, man. And if you saw that play, it probably scared you as well. Denny Avdia had a drive in the third quarter where he stops, non-contact, goes down, and is just like holding his knee. And it was an awkward fall, an awkward play. And it was like, oh no, did he tear his ACL? Oh no, is Denny done? It was one of those plays where you wouldn't have been surprised if it was like a serious knee injury just the way he went down. He's down for a little bit, then he bounces right back up and keeps playing. So I love that. I like it was a major sigh of relief because Denny Avdia makes this team much more watchable, and obviously it's one of those things where we haven't had any serious injuries so far this year, unless you want to classify Matisse Thybulle as a serious
Matisse
injury.
Has been out all year, Tory.
Yeah. So I should show some respect to Matisse, but this has been they've had guys that are banged up, but the Blazers, if anything, are over-exaggerating that. I don't know what word you want to use to describe it, but Jeremy Grant just missed his 7th game with a face contusion, and he wasn't even questionable going into this one. So you had DeAndre Ayton miss 7 games earlier in the year with a finger contusion, right? Like, all right, if that's what we got to deal with this year, man, yeah, the basketball kind of sucked today, but seeing a play like that just reminded me, like, man, we've been pretty solid in terms of not having any serious injuries outside of bruises, outside of some freaking bruises. And that's something to be thankful for, man, because that play was scary.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is public knowledge yet or not, but Jeremy Grant actually has a concussion, and I don't know why the team hasn't announced that, but yeah, that's what's going on with him.
Why are they calling it a face contusion? Is it because he played? The thing is, when he got that injury, he played the rest of the game. Is that
maybe? Yeah, maybe they're just trying to. Yeah.
See, because that makes sense. All right, so they're not over exaggerating that injury. They are under exaggerating it because they're calling it a face contusion instead of a concussion. Just weird, man. The Blazers have been weird with like every injury all season long. Yeah. The finger bruise from Ayton, and then you got like Thibault, man. And apparently it's like
they finally gave an update today.
Yeah, the worst ankle sprain ever, man. But like, didn't he sprain his ankle like 5-6 weeks ago? What, like
something like that. Well, remember a few years ago when what's his name? Your favorite player, Justice Winslow, sprained his ankle, and he was supposed to be back in like a few weeks, and then it turned out to be the rest of the season from like December 5th or something. He missed like 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to make of the Blazers' injury situation. It's just you're calling it a face contusion, but it's actually a concussion. And it's actually something where he was listed as questionable for multiple games. Or not multiple games. Wasn't he listed as questionable the game after?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
And then, like, he wasn't even listed as questionable for this game at all. So,
right.
When you're calling it a face contusion, and then Jeremy Grant is questionable, but then, like, you get to game number 7, he's not even questionable. He's just straight up out. Of course that's going to raise some eyebrows, man. That's just weird. So it makes more sense now as a concussion, but it also makes less sense because why aren't they calling it a concussion? So I don't know, but hopefully he gets healthy, and you know it's something where like, all right, sit him. It's not like he was playing his way into extra trade value. It's then he gets to play with the starting lineup. We like that, so it's not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, man, I just wanted to start off this post game because this is going to be a negative post game. I wanted to start off this post game on a positive note. Thankfully, Denny was okay, and thankfully we haven't had anything that's like actually serious. You know, we've had a couple of concussions, right? Concussions are serious, all right? I'm not trying to, downplay concussions, right? But if that's the worst thing you got to deal with over the course of the season, like a lot of teams have to deal with worse, and Blazer teams most years have to deal with worse. So pretty happy about that, and pretty happy that he was okay and that he was able to continue playing. Now, his play, I mean, we'll get into individual players on this team. I have a player of the game poll going right now, and the leader in that poll is Anthony Simons. We'll wait to touch on him. We'll wait to touch on Denny. The first guy I want to touch on, Eric, is Shaedon Sharpe. So, Sharpe in this game, 7 for 20 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, 5 for 6 from the free throw line. He had 22 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, 6 turnovers, and was a team worst minus 18. He did have a 22-point game, but it was not efficient. I do like that he shot 20 shots, although I don't think he necessarily got the best shots, and I think there's some things that went into it. He to me, Eric, just seemed a step slow today. He seemed tired. He seemed fatigued, and there's just plays on both ends of the court where it's just like, man, this dude doesn't seem like as quick, right? He had multiple instances where he was super slow rotating out to a corner shooter or a wing shooter, and ended up basically giving up an open 3 because he was rotating slowly. And then offensively, it seemed like all night long he could not get a step on a defender and get to the rim. Like he was getting cut off on every single drive. It resulted in him settling for some mid-range pull-ups. He had a turnover in the second half of this game after the Blazers had their run. He had a turnover where he just tried to do it behind the back, but did it so slowly it literally got stolen out of his hand by Haywood Highsmith, who's a good defender, but it's just a slow move, man. Like, and he didn't even chase him down. Like he just stopped, basically gave up after he lost the ball. He, to me, just seemed a step slower today. I don't know what it is. He has played in some heavy minutes, I'm not just saying this to for any agenda purpose, right? And if you're confused by what I mean by that, I've questioned in the past whether or not Sharp struggles dealing with season-long fatigue, or at least where he plays, a 5-6 game stretch where he has some high-minute games, and he had recently a 42-minute game, right? And this game played 37 minutes, would have played more if it was closer, right? And it always seems like he'll have a good stretch of play, but then he'll start really struggling, and he'll start, his play will drop off, and he just seems slower, and isn't able to get by guys off the dribble, and his play suffers for it. And, but I'm not rooting for that to be the case just because that's a theory of mine, right? I think there is some truth to that. How much truth there is to that, I don't know, and there's no way of really knowing unless you're Shaedon Sharp, I guess. But some nights you don't have your legs in the NBA, right? Some nights you're not as quick, right? Like some nights you'll have your legs, some nights your legs will feel good, some nights your legs won't, especially when you've been playing heavy minutes in games previously. And this was one of those games where it's just watching him, he just seemed slow to me tonight. And I'm curious, chat, if you guys had that same impression. And it was plays on both sides of the floor that made me feel that way. Eric, talk about his game. Let me know if you also got that same feeling, because it just seemed like he did not have the same burst that he's been playing with. He's had some moves lately where he's shifty, really good, stop and go. And tonight just seemed kind of like he was moving in quicksand compared to some of his games previously.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, smart teams like the Heat, who this is what the difference in coaching is. They game plan for individual players, it seems, better than other teams. And it felt like a lot of the plays, they were letting him drive away from the paint, but not into the paint. And they were basically daring him to shoot those mid-range shots. And he's been good at hitting them, but they just made an effort to not let him get into the paint very much. And I think that it's hard to tell whether it was that or if he was a step slow on those tonight, but he did seem sluggish in other regards. So I do see how you could lean towards that being the case. But for me, it just seemed like he was kind of, he's like this as a player sometimes, just the casualness, the nonchalant attitude. And I felt the first few times he touched the ball in this game, he just was not super focused. And I had a thought right when, because Chauncey does the same thing every freaking game. It drives me crazy. 7+ minutes left in the first quarter. Out goes Ant, and comes Scoot. I don't mind Scoot coming in that situation, but I think Sharp had already had 2 or 3 turnovers at that point, and hadn't made a shot yet. I know he got the fast break dunk right after that, but in my mind, why aren't you dictating? Sit him down if he's getting off to a start where he looks that poor and that shows that lack of focus. Why isn't he the first one to sit and let the players who are actually trying right now? So
the funny thing about that is he did hit a 3 right after that sub.
Yeah, right.
know? But yeah, no.
Yeah, well, he had the dunk and then the 3, but that doesn't. The results afterwards don't necessarily change my opinion that it shouldn't be so robotic. Like if a player's not bringing it and not showing that level of competitiveness that you expect from your players, why aren't you the first one to be subbed out? Like,
Yeah. So
but I don't
so
know.
I was thinking about this because you brought it up in our group chat, right? And I was thinking about this. And it's like if Chauncey was on the record saying things like, yeah, yeah, he's struggling, but I want to let him play through his struggles and learn from his struggles. That's why I kept him in. Or if he had that sort of attitude towards things, I would actually respect him more because it's like, all right, there's a purpose to your subs. Even if maybe I disagree with letting him stay in, it's like, okay, you're not being robotic. All right, he struggled to start the game, but you're going to let him try and work through his struggles to challenge him to grow, or whatever logic you want to put behind it. Okay, at least there's some logic behind it, right? Or if that's not the logic, then the only other logical thing to do is say, all right, he comes out, he's struggling, he's not playing well. All right, he's going to be the first sub out. We're going to keep Ant in. You keep one of the two guards in and you sub one of them out, and then whichever one you sub out, you sub back in for the other one, like later in the quarter, right? Like, all right, so if Sharp's struggling, you sub him out first. If Ant's struggling, you sub him out first. Let him get a breather, then let him kind of reset themselves and then come back in the game. Those are the only two logical conclusions, right? But it's like, it doesn't feel like it's either. It just feels like, all right, this is what our subs are going to be going into the game. And that's been something that we've critiqued heavily just because of the roboticness of it.
Yep. I don't know, like, because that is one thing you could have pointed to with when Bjorkgren was the coach. I know you've been so like anytime someone brings that up, you're always asking for certain examples of what made it different.
Yeah, like X's and O's, because the sub patterns were different for sure,
Yeah.
and the substitutions I think stood out the most. I think there's some people that we talk with that keep talking about how like Scoot was used really differently under Bjorkgren, and my question is always like, I don't necessarily disagree, but like what specifically was Bjorkgren doing differently with Scoot, with Sharp? Maybe putting him on the ball more, but it's like Sharp was on the ball this entire game. He had shot the ball 20 times and turned it over 6 times, right? So it wasn't really an issue with Sharp being on the ball. Now, maybe it's an issue in terms of like you're not running curls for him, you're not running enough sets to get him an advantage, right? Because here's the thing, when the Blazers are super stagnant and Sharp's not... Sharp has moments where he's really good in isolation. I think statistically on the season he's been pretty good in isolation, but he just has games where he struggles to get a step on his defender. And this was one of those games where he just could not create good shots or get to the rim out of isolation. And those are the instances where you run him off more curls, you run him off more pin downs, you just try and get him on the move and give him an opportunity, give him a lane to hit once he catches the ball. Instead of, all right, here, you got the ball, you got your defender right in front of you, you got to try and break him down. Unfortunately, the Blazers' stagnant offense, it produces more situations where it's like, yeah, you got to be able to attack your defender one-on-one in isolation, right? And Ant will get going shooting all these tough contested threes in situations like that, step-back threes. Yeah, they'll have some moments of good ball movement, but the thing is like their ball movement is... It's never really like out of a set that's designed to get somebody an advantage. It's like somebody creates, kicks out, extra pass. A lot of times it's like Sharp's standing still when he's catching the ball and the defense is able to kind of rotate to him. And then he does that thing where he'll like pump fake an open three, then jab step, and then like the defense is set and then it's an ISO situation, right? Whereas if you're running him off curls, it's a design thing and you have him with momentum going into the catch. And oftentimes you're going to have the defender trailing him. Or if the defender goes under, that's an easy read. You step back, you got a wide open three instead of something where it's a contested three or a step back three against a defender that you're isolating against. So that's where it's like Bjorkgren, if he was full-time coach, would maybe do a better job of that. But I think it's more so a conversation about like, all right, the next coach needs to be able to do these things. Chauncey, in a game like this, he's, it's obvious Sharp was struggling to create good shots out of isolation. That's when you start relying more on these types of actions that Chauncey just does not pivot to. He just doesn't pivot to them. It's just the same stuff throughout an entire game. And it's like, I don't understand. It's like you see this dude struggling to gain a step on whoever is in front of him. It doesn't even matter if it's a good defender or not. He literally just cannot turn the corner, cannot get downhill. Some of it's good defense for sure. The Heat defend well. They're well coached, I think, as much as anything. But you got to be able to set him up to get an advantage, set him up with easier shots. And it's something that we say in regards to Anthony Simons as well. And that's just where this team fails. So, it's a tough situation. I think Bjorkgren, gave these guys freedom, but I also feel like he wasn't running a ton of action that the Blazers don't run. It kind of looked the same in terms of the half-court stuff when he coached those couple of games, which he's not going to change the whole system in 2 games. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Didn't we play 2 bad teams in that? Or
we played a super short-handed Dallas team, and we played the Utah Jazz.
Yeah. So, it could have been as simple as that as well.
Exactly.
And both were at home, I think, right?
Yep, both were at home. The Blazers were 8-8 going into this game. They were a 500 team at home. So,
mm-hmm. But it's hard to know on a 2-game sample size because we've had games where we've looked awesome under Chauncey too, and my biggest takeaway from that is it's been, pretty much every game that I can remember recently, even the ones we played well in, it's the fact that as the game goes on, we devolve into more and more just somebody make a play offense. And I can't stand that there was a point there where we ran 4 or 5 straight possessions where we had no movement, no one was doing anything. And Sharp and Simons, there was one where they were just passing the ball back to each other, and they were 5 feet away from each other with no spacing. And a little bit of that maybe is on the players for not moving, but we've seen it way too much to blame them entirely, I think. So I don't understand why our offense is so basic and so prone to just getting so ISO heavy or reliant on the guys like Sharp or Simons to just make a bucket. And it results in a lot of bad contested shots, and it results in, when you can't get that separation you're talking about, just disgusting offense at times. We had 12 points in the fourth quarter until a couple minutes left, so it just was not going well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. By the way, in case you don't know, we're going to be reviewing trade ideas tonight, okay? So shout out to those of you who sent me some on Twitter. All right, we're going to take a look at some trade ideas. We're also going to talk about coaching later on in the stream. But right now, we're reviewing the individual play from this team. So Shaedon Sharp, tough night. He still scored 20, so
yeah.
But
like you were saying with Scoot, a lot of times, maybe it's good that his bad games are decent still. He still puts up stats, but I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of Scoot, so Scoot tonight goes 1 for 6 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3. 2 of those threes were basically grenades. One was a half-court heave. Okay. 1 for 4 from the free throw line after, a game where he went 12 for 12 from the free throw line. Just kind of a quiet game from him. He didn't really turn over the ball. He had 3 assists. He had some nice passes that weren't assists. 1 turnover, right? That part's fine. You take out the heaves. He's 1 for 4. He's 0 for 2 from 3 in 21 minutes. That's, I don't know. He barely shot, basically. Tried to attack multiple times, and the Heat defended him well. So it was basically just a kind of a nothing game from him. It wasn't a terrible game, but it wasn't a good game. It was just kind of he didn't do much at all in this one. Only played 21 minutes, and I don't know. That's how I'd sum up his game. Would you summarize it any differently? And then there's also something that I've been noticing he needs to improve that I'll talk about after I get your take.
Yeah, I thought it was a bad game. I wouldn't say it was a nothing or unnoticeable game, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's up with him. Like his body language seemed weird tonight too. But I don't know.
I just like when you watch him play, do you see any sort of plan for how they're developing him? Like, do they seem like they have a plan to develop him?
I mean that I don't see that with any player on the team. So
Yeah.
my answer would be yes, no to any question like that. So
I just so something he has to learn, okay? He has to learn how to like use his body to score around the rim better. Because I feel like there was multiple times where he had a drive going baseline where he like had a good crossover. I will say this, like in a game like this, if you compared this to last year, the one good thing I can say is like his handle was definitely tightening up and getting sharper. Losing the ball a lot less on his handle, and he had a couple times in this game where he like really shook his defender with like a quick little double crossover or something like that. The problem is he gets baseline, he'll get a step, and he'll go all the way through and like won't even like look at the rim. And for me, it's like you're so athletic and you're strong. Okay, you get a step going baseline. That's where you get close to the rim. You power up off a two, throw your body into the defender so they can't block your shot, and finish the layup. But he doesn't do that. He just doesn't. It's more he'll get a step going baseline and he'll go all the way under the hoop and try and like dump it off. I think his one turnover today was he tried to dump it off to Klingon in traffic, which he makes that pass work a lot. So all right, fine. But for me, it's like, man, you get a step on your defender going baseline, jump into them. Go off 2 feet from around where the block is, jump into them, create that contact so that they can't block your shot and finish. And you might get some and ones. And, he just doesn't play well off of 2 feet. When he plays off of 2 feet, it's slow and it's like, all right, going to keep the defender in jail off a pick and roll because he went over, and then I'm going to shoot like a 2-foot floater. It's that sort of stuff. It's not like powering up, creating contact off of 2 feet and finishing through it enough. And that's just where it's like, man, you have a step in these situations. You had a good dribble move. You gotta use your body. You gotta go score. Like, you gotta go power up around the rim, go finish. And it almost seems like, he was a really bad finisher last year. And now it's like he does not have enough aggression when he does get a step and does have an opportunity to finish around the rim in terms of using his athleticism and using his body. Now it's like, all right, if I have a good layup, I'll take it. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of dribble around and try and find somebody that's wide open. And it's better than last year where he was completely out of control and like careening into defenders, completely off balance. But I just think there's certain situations that he could use his body to score around the rim that like top level point guards, even some role playing point guards that know how to score will use their body in, and he just has to learn from those situations, I think, and he just has to actually like work on that, because I just feel like he could have a bigger impact as a scorer around the rim in certain situations where he's just completely passive.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to pick on him because, like I mentioned, our offense does nothing to generate good shots. So, like, this isn't only a scoop problem. But, like, his first shot of the game was terrible. Like, he's fading away from the basket, tries to throw up some garbage, like, 7 or 8 feet from the hoop, didn't even get to the hoop on a drive. And, but this is, like, what you're talking about is, to me, when I see him play, I don't think, that's why I say I don't think he has a great feel for just like how to play basketball. I mean, he's good at some things. I just don't feel like, and maybe he can learn those things. I'm not saying that I'm giving up on him or whatever, but like, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that like a top basketball player, a top guy who is considered to be such a high prospect and stuff like that would usually know how to do a lot of these things already and not have to learn so many things
I disagree.
At this point in their career.
I disagree. And I think like feel is just kind of like glossing over a little bit too much. I think he has good feel for certain things. He struggles with his feel for other things, but I also think it's more so just like identifying what he needs to do in certain situations where he needs to get better at in certain specific situations, because there's times he'll really set up a dime to the corner and he'll have, times where he goes to that backhanded layup and it's a good move. He'll have times where he pulls out the floater, right? Like, he has moments where it's like, yeah, that's the right shot, that's the right play, that's the right pass. I just think it's a work in progress. And I think one of the things that maybe you could say, okay, he doesn't have a good feel for is like when to use his body to shield off a defender and finish around the rim. But also it's like, I think at the G League level, he did a better job of it in certain situations where I wish he would work on it now. And to me, it's like, okay, it's not necessarily that he doesn't, I don't know, like the best way for me to explain this is some of it I think is, okay, he doesn't have the confidence against NBA level defense at times to like really use his body and try and finish around the rim. At the G League level, he had all this confidence because he was the most athletic player on the court, and there was situations where he would load up off a two, jump into someone, finish a play around the rim. It definitely wasn't like a strong point for him. It was actually one of the things that was tabbed as he needs to work on more coming into the league. But there was flashes of it, where right now you're not even really seeing flashes of it. And I think it's more so, he's not as confident in his athleticism against NBA level athletes. And that's to be expected, right? They're the best athletes in terms of basketball players in the world, right? It's the best league in the world. So I think for him, it's figuring out when he can use his athleticism, when he can use his body at the NBA level. And it's a little different calculation than when he can do it at the G League level, because at the G League level he could just get away with more. So that, like, you could maybe classify that as feel. To me, I just classify that as he's 20 years old and still learning how to play at the NBA level and learning what he can and can't do. And also with how discombobulated this offense is, like, it's also something that contributes, I think, to multiple players not knowing exactly what they should or should not be doing, especially in the half court. His one bucket today was on the fast break, How many fast break buckets did we get, though? How much did we get out and run, though? It was off a broken play, loose ball that he chased down. Great hustle play. But, this team they had 18 fast break points. The thing is we act like that's a lot, and it's really not. It's like, it's a decent amount, but, overall, though, I just think it's more so just learning how to pick his spots, and it's a different calculation, and he's trying to figure that out. And I would just like to see him try it more on the baseline drive, because that's when you can really power up, use your inside shoulder to shield off that shot blocker and try and explode, try and draw a foul. When you're going downhill down the middle of the key, it's, you got defenders on both sides. It's not as simple. But when you're driving baseline, just have a defender on that high side, and you got to step baseline. That's really like the one spot where it's like, man, just go up with it. Just go up with it. It's like he doesn't use his body. Sometimes I'll try this like super quick reverse, which is a lot harder. It's like, man, you use your body, use your strength, use your athleticism. So that's just a improvement area that I hope to see some progress in before the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
But quiet game from him. Did not play much. Even that first shot you were talking about, Eric, the one where he goes across the key and tries that scoop shot, like, he was on an island with that defender. Like, nobody helped down onto him. So in case, chat, you don't know what play we're talking about, Scoot drives left from kind of the top of the arc, stops at the left block, and kind of spins back towards the middle, and then shoots like a scoop shot going across the paint on the other side of the rim, where he's basically kind of running away from the rim, trying to scoop it back.
Too far to scoop.
Yeah, but it's like, once he gets to the middle of the paint, like, jump into the defender and go up strong. You know what I mean? Like, I know he's shorter than him, but, like, I would just want to see him, like, actually create some of the contact there, go into the defender. Now, I think that's a tough move to maybe do it on, and there has been flashes where he has done a good job of this, and he's had actually, I think his most impressive finishes this year are when he creates contact. So, that scenario, it's like, why are you trying to go across the paint, like, scoop it from down low? Like, just go into the defender, bully him, right? You're on an island, so or I don't know. I just would like to see him do something different there and actually try and play to his strength as a player a little bit more.
Be awesome if he developed like a spin move or a drop step, like so when he's going across the paint, like spin back towards the basket instead of away from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Just there's little nuances that I'm hopeful that he'll pick up on and learn, and he'll add tricks to his bag, right? That's where it's like, okay, I'm still gonna have some patience. He's gonna be a work in progress. I saw somebody earlier like compare him to Sebastian Telfair. He's already like twice the passer that Telfair was. I think also Telfair's first 2 seasons were more inefficient than Scoot's were. So, like, it's just a bad comparison. Telfair was smaller, wasn't the athlete that Scoot is. Like, you're just comparing him to Telfair because Telfair was a bust. And that's just your creative way of calling him a bust without actually calling him a bust. But, Telfair's true shooting percentage is rookie year 47%, second year 49%, third year 46%. He was under 50% true shoot. Wow, I didn't even know this. His whole career, he did not have a single season where he's above 50% true shooting. Now, he played in a different NBA, but still brutal. Like, he could not make shots. So, it's not a comparison that has any merit to me. It's just basically saying, oh, Telfair was a bust, so is Scoot.
Yeah. I mean, that comparison could end up being correct, though, if you're just strictly boiling it down to that. But yeah, I agree. It doesn't play the same way Telfair does.
Yeah, I mean, Scoot's true shooting percentage this year, 51.4% going into this game. This game's going to hurt it a little bit, but assist to turnover ratio is up, right? Per 100 possessions. This year and last year, 9.4 assists per 100, but turnovers went down from 5.9 to 5.2. It's not like he's not showing any statistical progression, right? I do like that he's been more efficient. A lot of that has been he has finished better inside the arc when he actually takes the ball strong. And that's where it's like, man, okay, take the ball strong. It's going to be this way until he plays under a different coach. It's just the wonder of like, man, maybe a different coach could get a lot more out of him and help him progress more than Chauncey can.
Yeah, that's the hope, right?
Yeah, that's the hope. Maybe it's hopium, but yeah, it's not a great game. Before we jump into other players, first off, I want to give a shout out to BetUS, your sponsor for tonight's postgame show. The NFL playoffs are underway. You had 2 duds for games today, but it always seems like wild card round, there's a lot of games that are blowouts and a lot of games where you should bet the favorite. Okay, because the spread lines normally are not that big. So if you want to get in on the action and try and win something, check out BetUS. Use the promo code on the screen, YouTube150. It'll give you 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, 125% bonuses on your next 2 deposits, up to $2,000. You can get in on that. You can get in on, like, any basketball league out there, man. I was looking at spread lines for South Korean basketball on BetUS. Of course, you got college basketball going strong right now. College football championship games coming up, so you can get in on that. So, but NFL playoffs, man, 2 duds today, and you got 4 more games this weekend that you can get in on with that promo code. Shout out to BetUS for sponsoring the post game. Later, we'll take a look at an actual spread line. I'll find something fun for the NBA that we can take a look at.
Did you, real quick, one more thing about Scoot. Did you see the Chauncey quote about him?
No.
Let me try to find it really quick. All right, here it is. You can't speed up the growth of a tree.
That's just kind of a funny quote. I I don't hate that quote.
Yeah.
It's also just kind of funny though. Like Scoot is a tree. All right. I mean, the one issue with that quote, if I'm gonna nitpick, is, yeah, you can't speed up the growth of a tree, but you as a coach, for a 20-year-old point guard underneath you, do have an effect on his development.
So we're going to say it takes him like 20 years before he's going to be ready?
Well, I mean, it's just an analogy basically saying...
No, I know.
You know, but it's like, yes, but also, what could you be doing to help him out, you know, help him develop? Yeah. Is there somewhere where you're falling short? I just think everybody wants, like, instant reward, especially from somebody that's drafted 3rd overall, and I get it. He's still 20 years old. Like, it's not a blanket excuse or anything, but it's just like, it's not about what he's doing now. It's about what he can do in like 2 to 3 years. Right now, it's more important to identify where he's struggling and then hopefully improve upon it, right? That's development. That's a rebuild, right? It's the same way with the roster construction. It's not about building a good roster right now. It's about putting yourself in a position to have a good roster 3 years down the line. And in a way, Scoot Henderson goes hand in hand with that. That's the whole thing about timelines, is it's all about what can you be in 3 years, 4 years, whenever the team is ready to win. The legitimate worries about Scoot are people that are worried that certain things that they see in this game right now are a bad sign for him becoming somebody that can be like truly helpful to his team winning games down the line, or he's just not going to progress as much as we all would hope because of certain things he's struggling in this game. And, you know, that's where you can have some legitimate concern, you know. But I never really like the whole, like, I just don't see it with him. He's just not good. Okay, it's not really about what he is right now, all right? So it's like, all right, if he's struggling with this, why can't he improve? That's one of my questions, you know. If he's, you know, if he's just dribbling baseline and dribbling under the hoop, why can't he learn how to power up and use his body and finish at the rim in like 3 years? That's a long time. That's a long time for a basketball player, right? You learn a lot in 3 years. So that's just kind of my mindset towards it. And that's where I've been able to have patience with Scoot. And that's where, you know, I also have patience with Sharp. You can have patience with Scoot, with Sharp, while also realizing the reality that it's really hard to become a true star in the league, right? It's just a hard place to get. It's hard to be a top 25 player in the world. At the same time, with Sharp, with Scoot, like, these guys are not finished products. These guys are 20 and 21 years old respectively. There's a lot of time for growth. And that's where, you know, I'll be hard on Sharp and I'll talk about Scoot in terms of, like, constructive criticism. I try and keep it constructive. I try not to be like, oh, he sucks. Oh, what the hell is that? Like, super negative. Whereas with somebody like Ayton, who's just, his motor is inconsistent, it's always going to be that way, obviously. Like, that's where I'm more just like, dude, it's frustration for me. There's a lot of constructive stuff that you can learn from bad games for Sharp, for Scoot. And I just mean you as in, like, the coaching staff in terms of helping them develop and fix this stuff, and themselves as players, right? Like, each game should be a learning experience where you can little by little build upon it. And it doesn't mean you're just, like, going to improve on a linear path, right? Sometimes you'll have a good game, sometimes you'll have a bad game, right? But progress is like, all right, so the up and down of good and bad games rises. And that's why I talk about, like, man, if this is a bad game for Sharp or if this is a bad game for Scoot, like, that's better than what it was last year, right? You just want to see them stack more and more good performances, or at least just, like, progress in the areas, man, because it might not even be something where you can look at the box score and say, oh, yeah, see, statistically, he's just doing X amount better than he did last year, you know? His three-point percentage versus his three-point percentage last year. Like, people love to look at stats, I get it, but also there's an eye test element to it with, like, all right, if you talk about he needs to improve his pace, okay, can you visually see an improvement in his pace? For me, I want to see him use his body on baseline drives to try and power up to the rim. And progress to me isn't necessarily that he's going to finish all those plays. Progress to me is like, okay, in certain situations where I feel like he should do that, does he actually try and do that? Because right now he's not. He's just kind of dribbling under the rim. He doesn't actually, like when he gets a step going baseline, he doesn't actually try and finish plays. So if he starts trying to and maybe misses some of these layups because he's not used to doing it, to me that's progress because he's actually trying to do it. But it also might hurt his finishing numbers and his efficiency, where people that are just looking at the box scores will sit there and say, oh, look at how bad he shot tonight. See, I just don't see it. He just sucks. But to me, it's like, okay, he's trying to take that step into improving an area that if he tries to improve, will have some growing pains, but in the end, hopefully he'll be able to finish some of these baseline drives and he'll be a better player for it in the long run. And that's what it's about. So I think that's, you could apply that to different skills with a bunch of different young players in terms of the way that works.
Yeah, but don't you think he did shoot a lot more in those situations last year and it didn't work out for him?
I think last year when he drove, he was driving without a plan and like playing the NBA game like he was still in the G League.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's learned that he can't get away with it. And now you see him dial it back in certain situations where now it's like, okay, you dialed it back. You can't just drive into the lane willy-nilly and throw your body into people and like make it work at the NBA level because defenders are bigger, smarter, more athletic, right? And that's what I think he tried to do last year. It wasn't like calculated in certain situations where it's like, okay, this is where I can attack at this level.
Yeah, I think so. Artelli is kind of along the lines of how I'm looking at it. He says, I think Scoot was more physically developed than most guys his age and dominate based on that. And the NBA is very average physically and doesn't have the layered game to counter that. And I think that's, can he get that layered game? Sure. There's a lot of players. We talked about this on a previous stream. We mentioned like Jalen Brunson and those kind of players that learn how to do that kind of stuff without any sort of elite athleticism or anything like that. It's not indicative on you to have that athleticism to be good necessarily. I mean, it helps if you have both the athleticism and the craftiness and the skill. But I do feel like Scoot is just kind of like in a situation where he didn't learn a lot of those things because he was better than people and because he was so dominant at earlier ages, and now he's trying to figure that out. So hopefully he does figure that out. But for me, it's if I had to guess, I would say it's going to be a struggle for him to figure those things out eventually. Like I said, I'm still hopefully can, but it's really hard when you haven't had to learn the skill part of it to then just expect someone to learn that eventually.
I just think he's a little bit behind, but I don't really see how that translates into like, oh, I don't think he can because he still has so much time. It's not like he's running out of time, right? If he was 24 like this, then it's like, yeah, he has too much to learn, but he's already 24, 25, like, all right, sure. But when a dude's 20, it's like, man, how many years do you have until your prime? 5, 6 years? 7 years? The thing is, even in your prime, you can learn crafty ways to get things done. So that's where it's like, all right, so he's a little bit behind in terms of learning like some of the skill craftiness aspects of the game. To me, that doesn't mean he can't. It just means
I'm not saying he
he's
can't.
behind because he's been reliant upon that athleticism, behind that, like everything that you touched upon. I think he's behind on figuring out ways to be effective without over-relying upon that. I think he's made progress in terms of like he's started to try to not over-rely upon his speed and athleticism. I think he's played with more pace. I think, there's been flashes where he's like had some crafty moves, where he's created some contact and finished, and he has some flashes, and that's where it's like, all right. So I think he's improved in that way from year 1 to year 2. It's not necessarily going to show up on the stat sheet, but he's not just like, I'm going to drive and try and dunk on everyone. I'm going to try and, bully everyone at the rim. It's improvement in that area for me. So it's almost like you gotta take a step back to take 2 steps forward in that regard, because he was never going to learn it by just trying to over-rely upon his athleticism. That's been the problem. That's why he is behind. So for me, it's like, all right, you dialed it back. Now it's time to, and this is where, like, I wonder if he was under a different coaching staff, if they'd help him more with this sort of stuff. It's like, okay, now you got to identify situations where you can actually, like, be aggressive when driving with your own scoring, because there's just a lot of games where it's like he's just driving to pass, which is good, but you want him to be the best of both. You want him to be the best scorer he can be and the best passer, right? Because that's going to result in the best player. So it's just learning that situational aspect that, you know, you have to actually slow down and actually, like, I don't know. You got to slow yourself down in order to learn that stuff. You can't just play the way he played last year and learn this sort of stuff. So,
yep.
Anyway, let's talk about Denny Avdia tonight. 15 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block. Did have 3 turnovers. Was 5 for 14 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. He's been super efficient lately. This game was not one of those games. He did other things. Did have 5 assists on a night where the Blazers did not make shots. Has some nice drives. I mean, he's fun to watch. But yeah, started 2 for 8. This whole offense kind of struggled today. Just kind of a down game in a stretch where he's had a lot of good ones. So I don't even have much to say. He's bound to have a night every now and then where he's not super efficient. So I kind of just viewed this night as one of those. Did you have any takeaways from tonight for him?
Yeah, I felt the same way. Just bad game from him.
Yep. Tamani, 2 for 7 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3. I'm beginning to worry about his 3-point shooting, Eric. What about you?
Yeah, it's been very streaky. He's had good stretches, and then he'll have a bad stretch, some good stretch, bad stretch. Now he's back on a... Hold on, I forgot to plug my computer in. Now he's back on a little bit of a bad shooting stretch, but yeah, I mean, he does so many other things well that I'm willing to forgive it, but I don't know. He
just can't be unguardable. You're not unguardable. Wrong phrase words. He can't be someone that defenses don't have to guard. He can't be somebody that defenses can just leave alone. And lately, I feel like you're seeing more and more of that when he's at the 3-point line and he's not making teams pay, right? So last year, he shot 33.7% from 3. He shot well in preseason and to start the year, and it was like, oh, look at that improvement. Let's go. That's awesome. And early in the season, we were saying, like, man, he's been the most impactful player, and he's been the player that you can easily look at and say he's improved more than anyone, right? But on the season after this game, let me go to Basketball Reference. Let me actually check his shooting. But he's almost as bad of a 3-point shooter as last year. So going into this game, he was 54 for 154. Now he went 0-3 tonight. So he's 54 for 157. He's shooting 34.4% on the season. Last year he shot 33.7%. And the thing is, his 3-point shooting is cratering. He's shooting like 27% his last 10 games. 28%. And it's starting to result in teams can just leave him. And that's not a good thing. I love Tamani. I love all the things that he does well. I love how hard he plays. But in order to be the best player he can be, in order to be a guy that can really impact playoff games down the road, he has to shoot better, and right now, that shooting stretch at the start of the year just looks like a hot streak, looks like an outlier. And he's back down to 34%, which is a bummer.
Yep. I mean, ideally, he's that 3-and-D guy that we've been needing for a long time, but got to shoot better. And I don't know, I feel like at times, he does get open looks, but I also feel like he's not just being left open sometimes too. So I think he's just creating a little bit of space sometimes. But I think the main thing, this is a team-wide thing, but if you make that baseline cut a little more often, teams have to sag off a little more, and then you're just you have a foot or two more of spacing sometimes when you shoot a 3.
Yeah.
And so that's why I want to see more backdoor cuts, and more, because he's gotten a couple dunks when he has cut recently. Yeah. So keep doing that until the defense overplays that, and then maybe that little bit of spacing helps you shoot better. But I feel like it's just with him more than maybe anyone else on this team. It's just like, okay, that's a good shot. Like, just gotta, he's either gonna make it or he's gonna miss it. And when you have those kind of shots, like, you can't shoot sub 35% in my opinion, and be relied upon. You gotta at least be above 35%.
Do you feel like he turns a little bit too much on his shot? Now, a turn is not a bad thing, okay? Like Steph Curry shoots with a turn, Damian Lillard shoots with a turn. A lot of great shooters shoot basically with their right shoulder a little bit ahead of their left because it's easier to get your elbow in, easier to get your elbow, hip, and shooting shoulder aligned. But sometimes I just feel like he turns too much, man. Like he overdoes it. And there's a couple threes tonight where it's like, man, he's turning a lot.
Yeah, I don't know when he shoots. I don't really see. I mean, yeah, occasionally that comes into play, but overall, I don't see a lot wrong, like mechanically. Like it seems like it's something else other than that, in my opinion. But
Then what is it?
I don't know, just confidence, or maybe it's the arc a little bit. But yeah, I mean, he does. When he has, I haven't noticed this in his poor shooting recently, but last year and then when he had the bad stretch towards the beginning of the year after getting off to a good start, he was like cupping the ball, like as I mentioned earlier in the season. I haven't seen that as much lately, even though he's shooting poorly.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. I haven't really been able to figure out what makes it good or what makes it bad when he has good games or bad games.
I think one thing, this might not have any impact, okay? But one thing that might be beneficial would be getting a little wider base. Sometimes it feels like he's kind of narrow shooting the ball. And I think like with a little bit too much of a turn and a narrow base, like you just don't have a solid enough base underneath you, and it can lead to some inconsistency just because, you know, when you widen your feet, like you're more planted on the ground, you got better balance. And then when you're turned, you know, if you turn too much, you're kind of going against your body with your shot. So those are like two things that I'd maybe try if I were him, because it just feels like he's kind of narrow and turned. Like the elbow is in, you know what I mean? But it's like you don't have to get your elbow all the way in, man. Like Dame doesn't have his elbow in the ball like directly on top of each other, you know. Kevin Durant kind of shoots with the ball on his other side of his head, right? The whole thing is about your shot needs to be repeatable. It needs to be repeatable. The best shooters, their shots are repeatable. With Tamani, it's like, all right, narrow base, and sometimes you turn a little bit too much. Like that could be what the inconsistency is. But I don't know. You know, I don't know. It's just something that's I'm speculating on purely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he needs to figure out how to shoot a better three ball for sure. Your guy Chris Murray had a good game today. 10 points off the bench in 15 minutes, 5 for 7 from the field, 3 boards, 2 assists, and a block.
Yeah, he's looked like competent. This is like six or seven games now where he's come in and not been terrible. So, I mean, outside, obviously he missed his 1-3 shot pretty badly today, but I thought outside of that, he had a great game.
I mean, he's just like, he's not the type of player this team needs. Like, I almost think they'd be better suited just having somebody that's like just a 3-point shooter as like 9th, 10th man that they could bring off the bench, right? Because they have guys that do like little things, you know, Denny, Tamani, right? And that's kind of what Chris is right now. Like, he'll run the floor, he'll cut, he'll, you know, make a nice pass once in a while. He'll finish some plays. I mean, today he had like a hustle, putback bucket. He had 6 straight points. It was hustle, putback bucket. It was like fast break. He catches the ball on the wing and just like basic baseline drive dunk. And then like another fast break where he's just wide open in the middle of the court and nobody guarded him and gets another wide open dunk out of it. And it's like, cool, 6-point run. But it's also like, all right, like wouldn't most NBA players be able to, maybe not the hustle play. He deserves credit for that, but like the other two buckets, it's like, I don't know, like why NBA players are not converting those.
On a team, though, that does not cut, I will say, like the pass from Anthony when he threw it to his left and he was wide open down the middle. I mean, we have times where no one cuts down that middle, so at least he's I'm just saying, at least he's making himself available. And he did have a nice drive off a baseline drive for a dunk. I think he's done that several times in recent games. He's attacking the closeouts well. I don't think it's necessarily just anyone can do it because, like, I don't know. I think people would if anyone could do it.
I mean, I wonder why teams close out so hard on him. Because he'll convert some opportunities where teams close out hard on him. But to me, sometimes it's like, all right, these guys don't realize that he's a 30% three-point shooter.
Yeah.
Like I wonder how much of it is like, he looks like Keegan Murray. You know, they know Keegan Murray, so he looks like Keegan Murray. You got to run out on him.
He's taking advantage of it, though.
Yeah. It's just like, I feel like if he plays more and still is a 30% three-point shooter, teams will pay more attention to that. They'll scout for that. You know, they'll game plan for that. Teams won't close out on him the same way. Because there's just times where, like, he gets closed out on so hard, and he's just not a good three-point shooter at all. Like, he's not somebody you have to run off the line. He's not even that quick, you know? So if you kind of close out on him, he's probably not beating you to the rim. But sometimes these teams will just, like, completely sell out on his shot, and it's kind of strange to me. So, you know, for me, with Chris, I like the little stuff. I like the hustle plays. He's solid in that regard. At the end of the day, you know, the three-point shooting, I think, matters a ton. And still waiting. On the season going into this game, he's 30.4%, so it's probably right around 30 right now. Yeah, it's small sample size this season. Just would like to see him make some more, man. Because even if he had a game where he's like 3 for 4 from 3 and doesn't do the little stuff, it'd be more encouraging to me right now than, because we know he can do the little stuff. Like, that's not something that we even have to doubt at all. Like, that's where his strengths are. That's why he's in the league right now.
You want another Chauncey quote?
Sure, go ahead.
On Chris Murray, I trust him at all times. He's not mistake prone. It's just getting the opportunity. I trust him to play. I just trust him to play.
It's all about getting the opportunity. I trust him to play. Okay, you haven't played him like for a while until recently, so I mean, what does that quote even mean to me? Like, there's been many games where he has not trusted him to play, right?
I mean, maybe it's a recent thing, but he's definitely trusting him more lately, I guess.
Yeah, because what happens when Jeremy Grant comes back, though? He ain't playing.
Yeah.
What happens if Matisse Thybulle ever plays for this team again? You know what I mean? Like, is Chris Murray actually going to play? And that's the thing. It's not like Chris Murray is good enough. Even in games like this, it's not like he's good enough where it's like, oh, you have to play him. You can't take him off the floor.
Yeah.
If he starts making threes, then maybe. Because then you have a complete player. A complete role player. Right? So he did some good things in this game. He was good tonight. I put him in the player of the game poll, for crying out loud. That's his first appearance in the poll at all. So shout out to him. But, yeah, he needs to.
Are you sure he wasn't in there a couple games ago?
Maybe he was.
I thought he was one other game he was, yeah.
I feel like it was the first time I put him in one of the polls, though. So that's a badge of honor, being included in the player of the game poll. Will Jabari Walker ever show up in this poll, Eric?
Yes, I'll say yes, because after the All-Star break, we're going to have lineups featuring him, and he'll have like a 17 and 12 game. Like we did last year.
If we make like a trade where we bring in a lot of players though and need the roster spots, like I feel like he's one of the first guys to get cut.
Yeah, he's probably the first guy getting cut. Him or
there's some
Dwight played over him today, but
yeah, there were some whispers this past off season. I don't know if they were legit or not, but there was some whispering about like, yeah, the Blazers could cut him and just cut bait like they did with Trent and Watford the year before. Yeah, I mean,
That's one of those things where obviously hindsight is different, but I know you were saying that this summer, but like I heard the exact opposite, that they never even considered it. But yeah, obviously has played more, like you're right on that. But like I said, it's hard to.
he's completely replaceable. like the thing is we were pissed about Trendon because he had like a decent season, but do we really miss Trendon?
I mean, no.
Like, how much worse off are we right now because we don't have Trendon Watford?
Well, no, it's just weird to like someone on like a minimum contract. Just
Yeah, but also it's just like that kind of, to me, made me realize a little bit more. It's just like there's just guys you're not gonna miss, man. Even somebody like Trendon who had some good moments, who did some cool things, who was fun to have on the team. It's like he's not good enough where if you cut him, it's gonna really matter. And I feel like the most likely outcome for Rupert is he's one of those players, unfortunately. The thing is he just doesn't get a chance. And, like, to me, Banton is one of those players. A lot of people love Delano Banton, but I feel like Banton is one of those players where if you cut him today, well, should have cut him a couple days ago because he became fully guaranteed a couple days ago. But, like, hypothetically, cut him today, like, are we really going to miss him a couple years from now? No.
Well, yeah, and it's stupid to cut him now.
Yeah.
Now we got to trade him if we do anything.
But it's just like, I feel that way about Jabari. I feel that way about Delano. I feel that way. I feel like Rupert's too early, and I have some optimism about Rupert. It's just like, all right, he still has a lot of work that needs to happen, and we're not playing him much right now. So I don't know. But I mean, even with Chris, I feel like there's a likely outcome where it's the same way about Chris, where he like has a game like this to like, oh, it does little things. Yeah, I love it. But it's like, all right, I feel like he's kind of that Trendon Watford tier, where it's like, all right, you cut him, you're not really going to miss him. And you never want to say that about a guy that you took in the first round from a pick that you traded Josh Hart for. So.
Blaze the Nugs has something I want to bring up. Would love to have cut Jabari and kept one of those freaking seconds we sold for Jody's penguin bones.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight, Tori, I don't know if you saw this, but Jalen Wells basically locked up Anthony Edwards in the fourth quarter as Memphis came back and won the game over the Timberwolves, but largely due to the defense Jalen Wells is playing on Anthony Edwards, one of the best players in the league. And, we already have talked about his scoring and stuff like that. So
it makes sense.
Picked after our 34th pick.
Yeah, Eric, it makes sense to just keep taking chances on different guys at the end of the roster.
Yeah.
It's like, looking back, we didn't criticize this much, but it's actually kind of baffling to be like, you kept Jabari, you kept Chris Murray, you kept Banton, you kept Uprise, right? Like, even Rupert, I mean, it's like you got all these guys that you brought back. You changed out basically 2 roster spots for Avdia and Klingen. You got rid of Brogdon, and you got rid of, who's the other guy they got rid of?
Devontae Graham.
No.
Moses Brown.
Moses Brown, you know what I mean? Like, all right. So those are 2 guys. But it's like the strategy, Jalen, not to say they would have drafted Jalen Wells, right? More likely they would have gotten another like Jabari Walker or, whatever. But it makes sense to take chances on new guys because, like, instead of sitting here like, oh, well, we have a full roster. Let's trade these second-round picks for some cash. It's like, no, take a chance on somebody with the 34th pick and cut Jabari. Maybe that would have been Jalen Wells, you know what I mean? And then you'd be sitting in a good spot where, like, yeah, this dude's a part of the core. The thing is that's Tamani, too, right? Like, Tamani's a part of the core. Tamani's valuable. He was the 53rd pick, but you passed on him for Rupert and Chris Murray. All right, that's a different conversation. But, cool, you hit on one of those things. It's just baffling to me to keep the same end of the roster guys like this and not just take chances on new guys, because every once in a while you'll hit on a Tamani, you'll hit on a Jalen Wells, but you'll only hit on them if you actually take chances on these guys instead of just sitting here like, yeah, we're just going to hang on to Jabari. We're just going to hang on to Chris Murray, hang on to Duop, even though, like, none of these guys are probably ever going to factor in to this team winning playoff series.
Yeah.
Jalen Wells is going to help Memphis in the playoffs this year.
And as Medina points out, they could have also signed those guys to two-way deals instead of Taze Moore and Justin Minaya, to people like that.
Yeah, but people think I'm just trying to be negative when I criticize bringing Justin Minaya back on a two-way. All right, man, but like it's the whole mindset to me is like you're not really trying to find diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I forgot who said this. So I want to credit whoever says this, but I completely forgot who it was. But I saw someone talking, or I was talking to someone about the Jalen Wells situation, and they mentioned how just last week Joe Cronin talked about how they still need to be in talent acquisition mode and they need more talent on the team. Yet with an opportunity to, add talent, they gave those picks away for basically nothing. So like, what does that mean? Like, I don't understand. It's never made sense, their direction or their plan or whatever. We've been a horrible rebuilding team for a few years now. Like, why would we not want to take as many chances as possible and use as many picks as possible?
Yeah. Yep, I fully agree with that one. Let's move on. Let's talk about Ant. Ant is your player of the game. 28 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, couple of turnovers, 10 for 23 from the field, 7 for 14 from 3. He got this team back in the game. He was 3 for 9 inside the arc and only got to the line one time, but the 3-point shot was falling, especially in that third quarter when he got hot. Got this team back into the game. I don't know. I'm probably completely making this up, but in that third quarter, it was like he had a point to prove to Tyler Hero, because of all the Dame stuff. But I'm just inventing stuff in my mind, because he came out guns a-blazing, and even the broadcaster, I think it was Lamar, was like, he doesn't want to let Tyler Hero come in here, something. Like, no.
I mean, I would say that if we haven't seen Ant do that,
for sure.
Games,
no, that's where I caught myself, and I'm like, nah, this is just Ant. This is just like, bro doesn't care. What am I talking about, right? But
we wouldn't have done that at the beginning of the game.
True, but like he, there was times in this game where he was too aggressive.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it goes back to our shitty offense. Sorry.
No. Like anything he shoots with under 12 on the shot clock, like I probably won't have a problem with it, unless it's like he obviously could have gotten a better shot for himself and didn't, right? But like, there is like 3 shots in transition where he's shooting like insanely difficult shots with like 20 on the shot clock, 19 on the shot clock, whatever, like very, very early in the shot clock. And it's like, dude, you can get that shot probably any time in a half-court possession. Like, why are you shooting that shot with so early in the shot clock? And if it's like a heat check, okay, fine, right? But it was like there was times in this game where he like was not hot because he basically just got hot in that third quarter, and it's like, man, like why? Why? Like, where are you going? There's a play in the first half. He's just driving into 2 defenders again, bringing the ball up the right side of the court. Doesn't even have a hope or a prayer of getting a good shot off. And there's 18, 19 on the shot clock. And he's just driving against 2 fenders. It gets smothered. And it's like, dude, like, where do you think you're going? Like, what? So, in the half court, especially as the shot clock winds down, yeah, like, okay, yeah, you're going to have to shoot a tough shot because we're not doing anything. But there's just times like early in the shot clock where I'm like, man, why do you have to force a couple of the shots he shoots? And I think that's part of the reason why he's not like super efficient, because he's super gifted as a shot maker. He just makes it harder on himself with some of these early shots that he doesn't have to settle for, that he could get at any point in a half-court offense.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I hate shots early in the shot clock, too. Completely agree with you there.
Yeah. If it's a good shot, wide open 3, there could be 24 in the shot clock. You get a wide open 3, shoot it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Or if you have a lane to the rim in transition, 22, 21, 20 on the shot clock, whatever. All right, try and take that lane, try and go and finish. But it's like, all right, you got a defender on your hip and a defender right in front of you and 20 on the shot clock, and you're just going to drive into a double team and throw something at the rim? Like, nah. that's where you got to pick your spots a little better. And he gets hot. We know he can get hot. We know he can make threes. It's fun to watch. He makes some incredibly difficult threes. But, there's also the metrics out there that says, like, he shoots some of the toughest shots in the league. And it's like, all right, part of that's our offense. But part of it's some of the stuff he forces early in a shot clock. Some of that's on him, where it's just like, just dial it back a little bit. If you have to shoot something tough, second half of a shot clock, all right, fine. I fully understand that. Just the early shot clock stuff, sometimes it just gets a little too aggressive, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, he did get a free throw tonight, so that's improvement.
Yeah, off that was another one of those. What's funny about that play is he got nanned one, but it was like an incredibly difficult shot in like he probably got, he got fouled, but it was like one of those things where it's like a good defender doesn't foul there, and that's a really tough early shot clock shot. But it worked.
Yeah, well, see, the one you were talking about in the first half, I mean, you can tell he thinks he got fouled, and that he's trying to get to the line sometimes, and he just never gets those calls, and maybe he needs to adjust because he doesn't get them. But like you can clearly tell, like with his body reaction afterwards, that like he thought he was fouled or whatever and wasn't called. But
like that,
it doesn't give an excuse for shooting. I'm just saying, like I think he thinks in his mind he's shooting that because he's going to the line. But
well, it's just almost like he'll decide at like half court when he's bringing the ball up the side of the court when there's like defense back, like I'm just gonna drive into both these defenders and like try and create as much contact as contact as possible and hope I get fouled. And he like makes up his mind so early, like this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go get fouled. And it's like you got to read the situation, man. If you got a defender on your hip and a defender right in front of you, the defender on your hip doesn't have to do a whole lot. That's going to be the guy who's more likely to foul, right? But if you're driving straight into somebody who's set up and just waiting for you, like, it's easy to defend you without fouling, and you're creating most of the contact. So then, okay, yeah, it doesn't get called, and then you want to get frustrated about it, but it's like you're not picking your spots well enough, man. Like, you can't just drive into a defender that's standing there waiting for you in transition with another defender on your hip and just hope and pray you get fouled.
Yeah.
Like, oftentimes you got to have some sort of advantage that the defender is trying to, like, recover from or is off balance from or something. Normally that's when, like, the SGAs of the world, the guys that really know how to get to the free throw line, they'll get the defender out of position or get the defender in a tough spot and then use that against the defender to get them to foul. But with Ant, it's just like, oh, transition, I'm going to drive right into two guys and hope I get fouled. And that's just where he has to get better, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. We have someone in chat. I want to give them proper credit. R. Jonesy says, free Avdia. Yeah. What?
Cool. He's free, man. I for now, until Grant's back. Until Grant's back.
Yeah, I mean...
Until Grant is back from his face concussion.
I don't think he needs to be freed. He played 37 minutes tonight, my guy. And that's with getting hurt. Or almost looking like he got hurt.
Yeah, nah, he's free for now. But when Grant gets back and starts over him, I'll be right there with you.
Yeah.
I'll be right there with you. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's good that he's making threes again. It's good that he found a shot. I don't know what he's shooting on the season now, but it's creeping up into the upper 30s, which is good because he could not make a three for the longest time. But he found a shot again. So
I think he's leading the league in January so far. It's good to see.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Who have we not talked about?
Klingon?
Yeah, what'd you think?
I thought he was fine. Miami's tough. Not that Bam didn't really do a ton in this game. I didn't think. I don't know what his stats are. It could have been a sneaky good game. He had 13, 11, I guess, but like it wasn't like he was like abusing Klingon, right? Um, and so I felt like Miami did a really good job of moving the ball and keeping all the guys around the perimeter to where it made it really tough for Klingon to have to come out on someone. But I thought like his rim protection was fine. I thought his rebounding was okay. Um, he had that missed dunk, but he did have a couple other finishes. I thought it was okay. I don't think it was bad or good necessarily, but I just thought it was all right for him.
Yeah. I mean, the hustle's good, man. He had that play where he ran the floor, which was nice to see. That was a dime from Sharp. That was a fun play. That was a fun play. Um, he had a possession where he got basically 2 offensive rebounds. Like one was a tip out, missed a shot, and then battled for the ball, went off Miami. Just that sort of stuff I like.
Yeah,
Defensively, still, you have to wonder how much of it is conditioning, how much of it is knee. Is it his knee? He definitely needs to get in better shape. We knew that coming into the season. But I think there's 2 reasons. One, he needs to play heavier minutes and be able to like keep up with the NBA pace. Okay. 2, he needs to get hopefully a little bit more athletic somehow. Because he had that dunk he missed, man, and he's 7'2" with like a 9'7" standing reach, and he had that dunk where he like kind of cocked it back to avoid the defender, but it was like, dude, you're like barely getting off the ground. I get it, he's 7'2", but it's more so like, okay, can you get him to get in a little better shape, get him a little bit stronger? Seems like you can get his body in a little better shape, and can you get a little extra athleticism out of him where he finishes that type of play? Or feels more confident going strong to the rim and trying to dunk. Because there's times where he'll shoot like a little push shot or a little hook shot, and it's like, I feel like you could just go dunk it. So that's the hope for me.
yeah. So he had 8 and 10. I don't know why the box score didn't credit him for 10 and 10 because he did have a basket for the Heat. So really, he had double.
If I was Mark Mason, if I was the PA announcer, I would have just said his name like as if he's an away player because he scored for the away team. Yeah, Donovan Klingon.
Yeah,
that would have been funny. Yeah, that was not the best.
and I think they gave that basket to Bam, so Bam had one less basket than he had.
Yeah. Rough play. Okay, I'm getting your guys' trade proposals ready. Okay, I think I can just bookmark them. I think that's the plan. I think I just bookmark them. Or do I just save the pictures? I think I just saved the pictures, actually. So I'll do that. Let's do a Q&A. I'm gonna hop out for a couple of minutes. I'm just thirsty. I need something to drink, okay? I'm gonna hop out for a couple of minutes, and then I'm also gonna save some of these things if you guys want to ask Eric some questions. Ask him the tough questions, though, chat. Don't take it easy. We can do Tankathon first.
There's some on Discord, too.
Yeah, there's some on Discord. So there's a lot. You guys submitted a lot of trade ideas, which is great. You said you did?
I said hi, Nathan.
Oh, I thought you said
I did. Hi, Eric, in chat.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I got a couple of trade ideas that I'm going to include in a video tomorrow, okay?
While you're bringing that up, Tankathon, David asked if we saw Nurkic got 0 minutes. Yeah, the last 2 games have gotten 0 minutes. But apparently there's some reporting that Charlotte and Phoenix have been talking about a Nurkic for Nick Richards swap.
Why would Charlotte? do
I
that.
don't know. And they would also be including someone else. I'm assuming
Grant
the
Williams?
Grant Williams, maybe. Cody Martin also makes it work. They have a bunch. Josh Green makes it work.
I would love
Uh,
that for Phoenix.
yeah. So I don't think Charlotte does that unless they get that 2031 first. So
I
I
mean, I have to
absolutely
know
do it if
Phoenix
they
is
do.
not doing that trade, so if they're talking and actually talking, then it says to me that maybe they're doing that just to get off a salary.
Yeah, Grant Williams is long-term salary, I guess, but
Yeah. Because otherwise, it's like, yeah, I don't really understand it for them either. Can I? Sometimes my Tankathon just does not load, man, and I do not.
what the heck? Unacceptable.
I just do not understand. Okay, can I load it on? Yeah, it just does not want to load for me today. Okay, I just do. I just do it at display capture, I guess, is the best way to do it. Hopefully this looks good on my screen. Except forget the last time I set this up. Alright, I need to move it up a little bit. I think. Alright. That should be good. Right? Close enough. I'll move it up a little bit more. Alright. This is what my streaming software looks like, in case you ever wanted to see the back end of it. Alright. So we got Washington #1. We got Toronto and New Orleans half game back. We got Charlotte and Utah 2.5 games back. And then you got Brooklyn and Portland tied 6 games back. I would love for freaking Utah or Charlotte to win some games. Where's that Utah team that beat Portland by 40 points? Can that team come back, please? Because, yeah, I at least want to be top 5 odds. I would feel a lot better if we were top 5 odds.
Just we're tied with Brooklyn again.
Yeah. We have a really... What's the rest of season strength of schedule? Remaining strength of schedule. So this is the toughest strength of schedule. We have the 9th toughest strength of schedule. I guess the good news is our schedule is harder than Utah's. It's much harder than Charlotte's. It's much harder than Toronto's. Somehow Toronto has had the hardest strength of schedule. They haven't played Washington yet. So you got 4 games left between Toronto and Washington. You know, hopefully Toronto wins like all 4 of those games. Brooklyn, 22nd hardest strength schedule. So if you look at schedule, we do have a chance. We'll see what they do at the deadline. Like the Blazers could still tank their way into top 4 or 5 odds. But yeah, that's where things stand. You got some ties down here. Eric, have it up as I reveal so you can tell me what team moves up. Perfect. All right, let's simulate this thing. Let's scroll up from the bottom like we normally do. At 14, we have Atlanta via Sacramento. Have we ever had the 14th place team move up?
I don't think we have this year.
I wonder if we did last year. I don't know. At 13, we have San Antonio via Atlanta. At 12, we have Golden State. At 11, we have Houston via Phoenix. So far, it's chalky. At 10, we have San Antonio. At 9, we have Portland moving down 2 spots.
Yeah, 9th.
Bro, this is getting bad, man.
That means Chicago moved up into the top 4, and Philadelphia lucks out. They do not have to give their pick to OKC because it's top 6 protected. They will keep it, and it's in the top 4. This would be crazy if this was happening on.
Absolutely. Frustrating, man. Can we move up? We haven't moved up in a long time. At 8 is Utah. At 7 is Charlotte. At 6 is New Orleans. At 5 is Toronto. So you got Washington, Brooklyn, Chicago, and Philadelphia, 4 Eastern Conference teams. At 4 is Chicago. At 3 is Philadelphia. At 2 is Washington. And at 1 is Brooklyn.
Congrats. Cooper Flight dropped 42 today.
I almost said, there we go, but you got San Antonio number 1.
Ugh.
Oh, God, I would rage, bro. Could you imagine we go to a Final Four, and it's 4 Western Conference teams, and it's Golden State and San Antonio in Utah?
Yeah.
That'd be nerve-wracking. Bro, I could not handle getting the 3rd pick again.
Flag and Wemby. Dude, how are you going to score in that team?
Cooper Flag had 42 recently. I'm back to
That was today. I just said that.
Yeah. Was that today?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was today. It's been a long day, I guess. Yeah, that was today. My sense of
This
time.
morning, yeah.
Well, yeah, I went to Nike employee store, came back, worked out, watched the game. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Been a long day,
But how was the selection there?
The selection was pretty good. I need new basketball shoes more than anything because my pinky toe poked a hole in it. So I got some Ja Morants.
Nice.
Because they were lightweight and actually kind of felt like old Kobe's, which is what I wore in high school. So
yeah,
I'm gonna be quick again.
How'd you get in?
A girlfriend
Nice.
was able to get in due to her AAA card. So yeah,
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a pass, but it expires what's today? Yeah, Tuesday. So I need to go.
Yeah.
I don't like to go on the weekends because they're usually kind of picked over. But
yeah, still rebuilding my wardrobe from the Goodwill incident of last summer, or no, not last summer, 2 summers ago. I had 80% of my clothes accidentally donated to Goodwill. Yeah, it's not good.
Elizabeth Allen says the Sabrinas are fire for new b-ball shoes. I wouldn't mind getting the Sabrina 2s. Those are pretty sick.
Yeah, for me, I don't care whose shoes they are. If they feel good and are my types of shoes in terms of the way they feel on the court, that's what I care about.
Yeah, I like the Kobe's too because I like playing in low top basketball shoes.
Me too.
But yeah, so I have KDs right now and I hate KDs.
Yeah. They have a narrow toe. The Jaws, the one thing I'm worried about is they also have a narrow toe. But I got them anyway. We'll see. We will see. But I was playing in Giannis's and they're kind of falling apart. And I had to replace the insoles. So I put some Dr. Scholl's insoles, which are kind of spongy. So it just slowed me down because it's kind of cushioned too much. So didn't have that same pop off the floor, if that makes sense. So now I got shoes, man. Now I'm good to go. But yeah, I'll be back in about 5 minutes. I'm gonna get some of these trade ideas ready in case you just joined the stream or don't know what we're doing tonight. We're gonna review your trade ideas for the last 30 minutes of the stream. Trade ideas that you submitted, and we're going to say whether we think it's realistic or not realistic or what we think of it for both teams, so it should be fun. You guys submitted a bunch of stuff, so shout out to you guys for that. So I'm going to get that ready, and I'll be back. Eric, feel free to ask Eric any questions. If you need life advice, this man has wisdom. So, yeah.
A lot of people talking about shoes in chat. Always a good conversation. Yeah, I can't go back to high tops or even mid. It's just I feel like I'm wearing boats on my feet.
Yeah, even after my ankle injury, I still don't like it. Although my ankles are fixed. Well, maybe not fixed, but had a lot of progress with rehabbing my ankle lately, so that's exciting. So I'm healthier now. Anyway.
Yeah, I haven't had. I've rolled my ankle several times, over the last few years, but it never. They're like rubber now for some reason. I used to have. I broke my ankle in high school and stuff. So. Yeah. Yep. All right. So Nathan asks, "What don't you like about the KDs?" I like the KD shoes. They're fine. I don't like KD. Is what I said. Um, Daniel asks if I think Scoot is closer to a bust. You seem kind of worried about him. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's I don't know, man. I don't, like I'm still trying to hold out hope. I'm trying not to be hard on him until we get a new coach. I'm trying to be patient like Tori is. But yeah, it's pretty rough sometimes. So I don't know. And Barking Box, is it crazy to have Nick Clifford in the high 20s on my draft board? No, I've seen a lot of draft boards with him that high. I still have him in my second round, but he's been playing really well. Might be I think he's going to go in the first round, but um, player comp for you think Scoot, Klingon, and Sharp end up close to? Man, I'm not good. Like even though I'm old, like I hate player comps. I don't know. I I don't know. It's tough. It's just like a guess at this point, and I don't know. Burritos or pizza? Ooh. Um, I'll say pizza. A little more versatile. But I mean, you can't go wrong with either one. If you said nachos or pizza, oh man, I'm a big nacho guy. I like nachos. JP Savage says the Marcus Smart comparison is starting to look good. Yeah, I don't think he'll ever like he's improved a lot on defense, and it's good to see. I don't think he's going to be like a defensive player of the year type, or someone who you can like scheme your whole defense around. Blaze the Nugs says Klingon, Mark Eaton. That's hilarious because that was the first name that popped into my mind when I read that question off. But yeah, I didn't want to. Yeah. Miles Martin says, "Is Grant from Middleton going to happen?" I don't know. I think I would involve a third team. I don't think the Blazers really want Middleton. And we'll talk about trades here in a minute when Torrey comes back. All Good says, is Scoot going to be able to be the backup point guard here long term if that's the ceiling? I don't know, man. I I don't really have a good sense on his mindset for coming off the bench. I'm assuming at some point he believes in himself enough to think he's going to be a starter in this league. So, um, yeah, yep. Then says any new Brant sources info recently? Nothing significant enough to mention. Not anything juicy. Um, the Grant concussion, yeah. I hadn't seen it whether it was out there or not, but that's what I heard. For those that missed it earlier, apparently Grant was telling people today that he actually had a concussion, not a face contusion, or he might have both, but he's saying it was a concussion. There's a reason he missed so many games. Ray says my ideal Blazer roster with the current or rotation with the current roster. Um, I don't. I think the. I mean, I'm not a fan of Banton being a part of the rotation, but I'm fine with the other 8 right now. I mean, obviously tonight, uh, Reith has to play because Aiden's not a part of it. Yeah, I would like Grant off the bench. I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, so I have no problem with the 8 that are playing. I would like if Grant's out, I would like Repair to get some minutes and some run. But other than that, I can't. Uh, I don't think we should necessarily be playing anyone that we're not right now. My ultimate starting 5 Blazers ever. Well, I'll kind of cheat a little bit, but Damon and Porter in the backcourt. No, never mind. I'll say Dame, Drexler, Brandon Roy. Yeah, Walton. I mean, this is and man, I don't know.
Chris Murray.
Pippen. I don't know.
Chris Murray fills in all the gaps.
So Sabonis and Walton is kind of a weird fit, but yeah, I mean Sabonis before he got hurt would be awesome, but.
Alrighty. You ready? I'm ready. I'm ready. Alright. Let's use this setup. Alright. Some of these trade idea pictures are like really wide, some of them are really narrow, so I'm gonna have to mess with it. But we got, let's see, let's look at this folder. I've just been saving these into this folder. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. All right, 16. Some of them like go together, all right?
So, yeah, I saw some similar ones.
Yeah. We're going to start. Yeah, maybe I'll spoil my video tomorrow that I'm going to talk about why I like a certain combination of trades that are like I think realistic and a lot of people would maybe think isn't enough or don't like, but I would like. Maybe I'll, you know what, if we can hit how many likes are we at? We're at 41 likes, 46 likes. We can do better than that. So hit the like button. Easiest way to support the channel. Kind of sad we're only at 46 likes, so cheer me up, chat. If we get to 100 likes at the end of this, I'll spoil my video tomorrow and share with you my master trade idea that some of you will probably hate. All right. So first trade idea, we're going to start with, all right, let's move this.
Did you get Twitter and?
Got Twitter and Discord.
Okay, cool.
All right. So I think the easiest way to do this is actually to put it like side by side. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it beneath this. All right, and then I'm going to copy it and paste it. Yeah. That way we can see the whole thing, all right? As you can see by this trade, it's a Anthony to Orlando trade. There was a couple I didn't include that were like like people had the same trade. So if you don't get shout out during this, I apologize. It's just because you had the same trade as someone else, okay? But basically, this trade is not that long, so I guess we can get it all in one. So in this trade, you got Anthony Simons to the Magic. The Blazers get back Anthony Black, Gary Harris, Corey Joseph, and a 2025 Denver first. This is from Unbiased Blazers podcast. Shout out to Javon, member for 14 months, says, like the streamer, Chauncey will be your coach for life. Your life coach is what he said. Yeah, we don't want either of those. So, like the stream. or you'll get cursed with Chauncey.
He might be a good life coach, going
Yeah,
around
actually,
clapping
maybe he
for you
would
all
be a
day.
good life
Yeah,
coach, But we're
yeah.
your life coaches, except we don't do life advice enough. But this trade, Eric, I mean, you get a first-round pick that's like a later first, but in a good draft, and you get back Anthony Black, who's like a really good defender. Shot's been struggling, but can pass, smart player, could be a really good role player on a winning team if he can figure out the shot. Could be a really good Swiss Army knife. What do you think of this trade for Ant? Let's say they decide to move on from Ant.
Well, I mean, I think I don't think super highly of Anthony Black, and obviously Gary Harris and Corey Joseph are just filler, and then a late first. So I'm not a fan of this trade, but I would understand if this was the kind of. I don't think I don't even know if they get that much
Yeah, that's what I would
from
be worried
Manfredi.
about. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think that the Magic would do this. But yeah, I wouldn't as a Blazer fan, but like I understand why Blazer fans would want to do that.
Yeah, like basically this is one of those trades where if they decide to move on from Ant, I would be happy with the value of the return.
Mm-hmm.
If the Blazers were built more like they were when Dame was here, I would like Anthony Black on this team more. I think the Blazers have players kind of like that, though, and they need shooting. And Anthony Black is a little bit duplicative. It's funny because we used to talk about, like, Dame and CJ. Are they duplicative? Anthony, right? Like, struggle defensively, shot makers, yada, yada, yada. And we use that duplicative word a lot. Now we're getting to the point where it's like a player like Anthony Black is duplicative because good defensive player, questionable jump shot, can pass a bit, like that is becoming a skill set the Blazers have on this team. So that's where this trade, if this is the value, it's maybe more than the Blazers can get back for Ant, but I would prefer a player that maybe fits in with the core a little bit better long term than Anthony Black. I do like that first round pick though. So like I don't know, we might get in another trade that has Jet Howard instead. We'll see. First, all right, next trade we got Adam. Oh, this is another Magic trade. All right, so yeah, how am I gonna do this? Or I just cover our webcams. That's probably the easiest way to do that. I'm gonna hide your beautiful face, Eric. My apologies.
That's okay.
I know it's unacceptable, but
No, it's fine.
gotta do what I gotta do. All right. So this is our trade from Adam. All right, and he sent in 2 trades, so I assume the second one goes with it. All right. So this is basically the last trade, but you get an extra second, and you get Jet Howard and Cole Anthony instead of Anthony Black and the other filler piece. So this barely works for the Magic. The Blazers get a $7.7 million trade exception from this trade. I don't really like Cole Anthony on this team. Do you like this trade more or less than the last one? The pick is about the same.
Yeah,
in terms of value.
I like it less. I like getting Jet Howard back in this one, but Cole Anthony has several years left on his deal.
Yeah.
And I don't think anything else in here is, because I think Black has more value at this point than Howard, obviously. So yeah. I think that's better value, that last trade.
If you had to pick between the two, you'd pick Anthony Black over Jet Howard?
Yeah, I mean, my problem is I think that would be very harmful to some of our players' development to lose shooting and get another player you're concerned about with shooting. So I could understand, or like, in my opinion, Jet Howard might fit better for Scoot, at least, than Anthony Black would. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you can argue that Black has more value, so it's a better player in return at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something I got sent on Twitter by Gabe that I might have to toss in this. That was from a tweet. That was from a tweet.
Would you
Would I?
would you trade Scoop for Anthony Black?
No. Not even for a second, no.
All right.
You thought I might have a different answer than that?
No. I didn't think you would. I absolutely thought you would say no.
Yeah, I mean, no way. No way. All right, this next trade this is another trade from Adam. Pacers get Robert Williams II. Blazers get Jarris Walker and a second-round pick. This does not work for the Pacers. I think this might work for the Pacers, but it would put them into the tax.
Yeah, Adam, with no regard for the Pacers' tax situation. Jeez.
Listen, I'm just glad it's trades that work under the CBA. We got to start somewhere. But the Pacers, I don't think, do this because it puts them into the luxury tax. So they'd have to trade out another contract, and that actually gets tricky for them. Also, I just feel like they are not going to sell on Jarris Walker.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just keep him, try and shore up their team by trading other players. I would love Jarris Walker on this team. I would take this trade if I was the Portland Trail Blazers, but I don't think the Pacers take it for those couple of reasons.
Correct. That's how I feel as well.
Alrighty, now we'll save the one Gabe sent me for last because it might be the best one for the Blazers.
This is just what's going to happen, I guess. Would you trade Scoop for Jarris Walker?
No. No, I would not. All right. Aiden Mounts sent us another Magic one, but it's not Anthony Simons. It's Robert Williams and Chris Murray and a second round pick. So you want to know why I'm having trouble fitting this graphic into the screen? Because we're trading a second round pick and getting back a second round pick. No offense to the person that sent this in. I just don't understand why a lot of you do this, where you have the Blazers setting out a second round pick and then also getting back a second round pick, and it's like there's like no difference between them. So
yeah, well, his first one had us getting Jet Howard, Tristan da Silva, and a first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is too much. Listen, this trade I don't hate. You get shooting. Tristan da Silva has had some good moments this year and is like the type of...
They're not going to trade him.
Yeah, I don't think they do this trade because Batadze has been good for them and they have Wendell Carter Jr. I don't think they really need a center unless it's like a Vucevic. I could see them maybe being the team that trades for Vucevic and brings Vucevic back to Orlando. But like unless it's a player that's like a big offensive upgrade like Vucevic would be, I don't think they're going for it because they have good defense and they need offensive help. I would like this a lot for the Blazers though. I would like Tristan da Silva on this team and like the Chris Murray role where I don't know how well he's shot this year, but he's supposed to be a shooter and he's still early on in his career, so I would have more hope for him being able to fill that role that we need.
Yeah, if you just take Tristan out of this and it's you get some salary filler, so it's like Jet Howard and a pick for Robert Williams, I might be able to be talked into that.
I just don't really believe in Jet Howard.
Yeah.
I forget how much I liked him coming out of that draft. I think I've soured on him a little bit. He can shoot. The thing is, in college, he had some like really shifty off the dribble moments and like creative moments as like a creator, but it wasn't good enough to translate up. So he just kind of feels like just a shooter to me, and he's not like that good of a shooter. So I'm kind of out on him being a major piece. So I would probably say no and hope for something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting. The reason why we're doing this too is it like starts conversations about players that normally we wouldn't, or maybe we haven't discussed about. So that's why I'm looking forward to the rest of these trade ideas. All right, the next one, so much smaller. Whoa. I almost knocked over my drink that didn't have the cap on it. That also would have been bad. All right, let me try and make it bigger. Hold on, can I just do this? There we go. 44% on the battery, too.
Whoa.
All right, so Rockets get Marcus Smart for Cam Whitmore and Steven Adams. The Grizzlies get Jeremy Grant and Duop Reith for Smart, Kennard, and a 2026 first-round pick via Phoenix, Washington, or Orlando. I don't know if that's like worst of or better of, and I think the Washington one has protections on it, so let's just assume that's going to be like a later first. The Blazers get Steven Adams, Luke Kennard, Cam Whitmore, and a first-round pick for Jeremy Grant and Duop Reith. Who do you think would say yes to this trade? Who do you think would say no? What do you think, Eric?
I don't think the Grizzlies would give up a first in this one. If you took that out,
Yeah.
I think this is. I don't know about Cam Whitmore either. I don't know how the Rockets are valuing him in trades like this. I think getting Marcus Smart would be good for them, but I don't know if they're necessarily looking to do that because, I mean, part of the problem is Cam Whitmore is not playing either, and he's similar size to Smart. So, like, yeah.
Cam Whitmore's intriguing, okay? And I say that looking at the light counter at 67. If we get to 100, I'll share a couple of trade ideas of my own that are humble ideas that I would like and that are big brain. Maybe too big brain for their own good. But you got to like the stream. Otherwise, I'll just toss it in a video. All right. Next trade idea is from Cameron Weaver. Whoa, we got... Okay, there we go. All right, there we go. All right, so nothing to see there. Let's make this a little bigger. All right, so the Blazers get Tim Hardaway, Malik Beasley, Marcus Sasser, and a 2028 first-round pick. The Pistons get Anthony Simons, Delano Banton, Jabari Walker. Basically, the prize here is that 2028 first-round pick. Marcus Sasser is an underrated backup point guard. I think, especially with Jaden Ivey's injury, I think Detroit would maybe be the most interested team in an Anthony Simons. But I think the players coming back from Detroit are wrong in this trade because Portland wouldn't really value them. It's basically just salary to match. Mm-hmm. But I think Detroit values Sasser. I think Detroit values all these guys. So I think you gotta have Fontecchio being some of the salary coming back instead of Malik Beasley and Marcus Sasser. Like if this trade was Hardaway, Fontecchio, and a first for Banton and Jabari, I don't really think it's any worse for the Blazers. Like Beasley is far better than Fontecchio, but I don't think the Blazers really feel like I don't. You'd have to convince Malik Beasley to resign. Number one. Number two, do you really have a role for him going forward in your rebuild? He's already up there in age. So that's where it's like, just let Detroit keep him because Detroit values him. He's been really good for them this year. Right? Now, if you can flip him for value and Detroit's willing to give him up, obviously you take him. I just feel like Detroit says no to this trade because Malik Beasley has been so good for them this year and Sasser's a underrated backup point. I think they would just say you could maybe take Hardaway and Fontecchio in a first, but that's the best offer.
Yeah. Yeah, I mostly agree. I do think there's some sort of trade to be worked out with Detroit, but I don't know about the other players going back either. I think they're going to go for it, dude. Cade had a huge game today, like 17 assists or something like that. Yeah. And the IV issue injury does hurt them, but I think this is a situation where they're going to be buyers at the trade deadline. It'll be very interesting to see what they do.
You want to know what I've seen, and like I'll just phrase this as if it's a prediction, okay? Although it's a really bold prediction, so I don't necessarily believe it's going to happen. But Bradley Beal in Phoenix is going to make him uncomfortable and basically show him, like, we don't want you. Okay? We don't want you. They already benched him, right? The point is Bradley Beal has a no-trade clause, and they want Jimmy Butler, and they have to trade Bradley Beal to get Jimmy Butler. Now, no teams want to pay Jimmy Butler except for Phoenix, so Jimmy Butler is going to want Phoenix. Jimmy Butler can become a free agent this upcoming offseason. So that's going to tamper down his trade value, right? So, Fortnite, or I'm reading a message. I have Gabe's. Me and Gabe play Fortnite a little bit. I have his messages open because of this trade, but I lost my train of thought. I've been doing that a lot lately. Not Collabro level where I misspeak, but where I'm like, I have a screen open and I'm talking and then I'll just randomly read one of the words off a screen. Does anybody else do that in chat? Let me know. Sometimes I'll do it when I'm reading chat where I randomly say something. But back to my prediction. I don't know if I believe it, but essentially, Phoenix will want to get Bradley Beal to open up his no trade clause and be willing to go to different teams, okay? Now, apparently, he's willing to go to Miami, but Miami doesn't want him. Maybe he's willing to go to the Los Angeles Lakers, but making the salary there work is really tough. What's your solution? You got to get him to open up his no trade clause to more teams. How do you do that? You make him feel unwelcome. You basically say, like, we don't want you anymore. You bench him, you know what I mean? And you basically, like, force him to, right? In Phoenix, I don't think is above that in order to get Jimmy Butler.
I don't think it necessarily means he will open him up to other teams.
It might not, but if he does, could one of those teams be Detroit? And Detroit might be the type of team that would be willing to trade for Bradley Beal, given that they have a lot of cap flexibility right now to be able to deal with that contract. The injury to Jaden Ivey, right? I think if the Suns are going to be able to get Jimmy Butler, I kind of have a feeling Detroit could be the team that gets Bradley Beal. Now, too much has to happen in that scenario for me to just like fully believe that's going to happen, but it's something I heard recently and I kind of agree with. Like, Detroit could be the landing spot for Beal because it'd have to be a 3-team trade if Miami doesn't want him back.
Yeah, I just don't see him opening up for a team like Detroit. But yeah, I mean,
depends on how much Phoenix makes him feel unwelcome, man.
Yeah.
You know? So that's the tough part. Eric Olson, I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about muck-off season? I'm not sure. Malik Beasley always has like a good half season and then completely trails off, but because he's had a good season for Detroit, they're going to want to keep him. All right, next trade idea. We have who was that trade idea from? That was from Cameron Weaver. All right, we got Day One Blazer. He has 2 parts. I think they're part of the same trade. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so the Blazers... All right, we got to piece this together. The Blazers are somehow getting back Zion Williamson, Marvin Bagley, Gabe Vincent, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Javonte Green, and a second-round pick. A 2031 second-round pick. Guys, when you do these trade ideas, you don't have to throw in a 2031 second-round pick. Like, it doesn't really make a difference. It just makes the screenshots longer, all right? Okay. Hold on. I need to copy paste this and like switch it to the other trade because this is all one trade. I think it might be a 5-teamer, Eric. All right. Whoops. can I please drag this? All right. Man. This is something. All right, here's your 5-teamer. All right, here's your 5-teamer. The Lakers trade Rui Hachimura, a 2026 first-round pick, Gabe Vincent, Jalen Hood-Schifino for Jeremy Grant. Okay. The Suns trade Yusuf Nurkic and Bol Bol and a couple of seconds for Rui Hachimura and Duop Reith, which is interesting. The Wizards trade Marvin Bagley for Yusuf Nurkic and a second-round pick. The Pelicans trade Zion and Javonte Green for Ayton, Bol Bol, a 2026 Lakers first. And the Blazers trade Grant, Ayton, and Reith and get Zion. Filler salary, Gabe Vincent's a bad salary, and that's about it. Who do you think doesn't like this trade? Who do you think likes this trade out of these 5 teams?
I don't think the Pelicans do this.
I don't think they do either.
I think the Wizards might consider it.
It's just why take on that salary for only a second from Memphis? That is probably going to be a really late second.
Yeah, true.
They signed Valanciunas, and everybody's like, why would you sign Valanciunas? But they'll probably be able to get late first for him. So that's why, they'd probably rather do that again than take on Nurkic's salary.
The Suns might do it.
Yeah.
Lakers, I don't think the Lakers are giving up one of their first. I know it's this 2026 first. They can't trade that pick. So it would have to be 2029 or 2031. I don't think they're giving up those first unless it's a star. But in terms of value, it's fine. I think a bunch of crap. Rui and a bunch of crap and a first for Jeremy. I think that's somewhat okay for them, just value wise. And then Blazers, it's a lot.
You swap out Grant and Ayton for Zion. If I don't like taking back Gabe Vincent. See, if it was just expirings with Zion and it was Ayton and Grant have no value, well, A, you're probably not getting Zion, but B, Zion's not guaranteed for following season, so it could just be a cap dump if you cut Zion.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the thing is, the tough thing with 5-team trades is when you're a fan of a team and you're coming up with a 5-team trade is when you're looking at these other teams, you're always thinking about who could the Blazers get? You're viewing their trade from the standpoint of the Blazers, not the standpoint of them. So it's okay, how do we justify Zion to Portland in this type of trade? But it's why would New Orleans? You know what I mean? I don't really see them valuing Ayton. They have Yves Missy.
The Lakers might just make this trade for Zion.
Exactly. That's the problem with 5-team trades. Is why wouldn't the Lakers just?
There was I forgot who said this, but there was some person who said that a Eastern Conference GM told him that if Zion actually became truly available, it would be bad for him because he would give up way too much for him.
It would be bad for who?
That GM of an Eastern Conference team said he would overpay for Zion just to make sure they got him. So I doubt you're getting Zion for a first and DeAndre Ayton.
Do you know the team?
No, the guy he couldn't obviously name the team. He said that an Eastern Conference GM said it would be.
And does it?
It would be Daryl Morey or someone. Maybe Masai.
Chicago.
I don't know. Chicago doesn't seem like
they don't. All these rumors around Levine and Vucevic, wouldn't it be the most Chicago thing ever to just keep
Get
both of them and then add Zion?
Yeah.
So they could finally stop being mediocre, but that they're still mediocre because Zion's always hurt. I feel like that would be the most Chicago thing ever. And it's like,
Yeah,
who's their
maybe.
starting power forward right now? Patrick Williams? He's not that good. So you have Giddy, Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Zion, and Vucevic. I could see them like
Um,
convincing themselves that they could be competitive with that.
yeah.
You need a lob target for Josh Giddy because Vucevic isn't one. All right, let's move on. All right, this trade idea. Let's do this. All right. So the comment with this said like I was talking to a Hawks fan. They said they need like a backup guard, although Ant is like too good for a backup guard, but they don't really have you got Dyson Daniels there's a starting two and Bogdanovich off the bench, but he's kind of a 2-3. They could use like somebody else that could play the point guard position when Trey's not in the game. So the Blazers trade Ayton and Simons. They get back a 2025 first-round pick via Sacramento, a 2027 first-round pick via New Orleans. They get back Capella. They get back Bogdanovich. They get back Nance. They get back Buffkin. Now, I think this might put the Hawks into the tax, so always got to be careful with that. They probably wouldn't want to go into the tax.
Yeah.
I do think if they decided to trade Ant, I do think this is pretty good value.
Yeah, it's good value, but I mean, I think Trey Young and Anthony Simons is a horrible fit. And yeah, when a team says they're looking for a backup point guard, that doesn't mean they're looking for a 20-point per game scorer. Like,
There would
yeah,
probably be a top 3 offense in the league, though, if you added Ant. I mean, and you got some forwards that, I don't know. Yeah, the defense would be atrocious. So I
but you're
really,
adding Ayton on defense and that
yeah,
with two small
yeah,
guards. So you got a
yeah,
non-rim protector, someone you have to run drop with, and two small guards that can't get through picks or whatever. Like, yeah,
yeah. I see the idea behind it, and I do like it for the Blazers because that Sacramento pick could be like the 11th pick,
mm.
the 12th pick. Right? Or how protected is it? Maybe it's lottery protected.
I
So
think
maybe
it's
it
lottery
could. Okay,
protected.
yeah. So who knows what you even get from that? But
I do think like an Ayton and Banton type trade to the Hawks might make more sense.
I just don't think they would want Ayton above. I don't think they would want Ayton over Capella.
Yeah, I'm
So
just
I
saying
just
if
think
it,
it's like it's DOA if they want Capella more than Ayton. Basically, is how I'd view that. So, all right, next trade. We got Michael Kroll. Shout out to Michael. We got a 3-teamer with the Hawks in the Warriors, all right? The Blazers get back, or no, I was just looking at the top team. So the Hawks get Robert Williams the third and Gary Payton the second, GP 2 weeks, for Clint Capella and a 2025 Lakers first. That's interesting for the Hawks. The Blazers get Capella, that 2025 Lakers first from Atlanta, and Lindy Waters for Robert Williams III and Matisse Thybulle. And then the Warriors trade Gary Payton, Lindy Waters for Matisse Thybulle. I don't think the Warriors do this. I think they value GP 2 weeks over Matisse Thybulle. But I do like it for the Hawks and Blazers.
I think they like Lindy Waters more than
Yeah.
this.
I think, honestly, I think somebody else had the 2-team version of this, taking out the Warriors and sending like Thybulle and Robert Williams to Atlanta. I forget who. Well, we'll talk about that then, because I'm pretty sure somebody had that, which I do want to talk about that iteration of it. Let me see if I can find it. Where was it?
For me, yeah, if you could get rid of Thibault, even if you have to include Robert Williams, and you get a first and an expiring back, I think you would take it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I don't think we'd get a first in this. So I think we'd have to take out the first, and um, yeah,
some of these
the
couple.
Hawks also. I mean, with Robert Williams being injury prone, that's tough to trade your starting center for Robert Williams right now. I think he fits more on teams as a backup center.
Yeah. Um, I found the I found the other version of this trade. You want to know who it was from?
Who?
Smog.
Mm.
Our guy Smog. So let me pull that up just because we're
Gerg?
yeah Gerg. Um, so I kind of like this, man. I kind of like this for both teams. The Hawks need defensive help. Robert Williams maybe a little bit more of a lob target than Clint Capella. And you get back
Mm.
Thibault. I mean, the pick, I think it like you'd want Atlanta would want to trade a pick that is likely going to be late first, so maybe a different first round pick. But Blazers get back expiring in a first round pick for Rob Will and Thibault, like you're cooking.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if they could do this, I would take it too. But
Yeah, I kind of like it for the Hawks just because I think it's a little bit of a defensive upgrade, and that's where they need help if they're gonna like actually try and make any noise this year.
they would need Robert Williams to stay healthy, and so I
The
think
thing
it's
is you do have a Kongwu and you do have Nance that can play the five, so like maybe they're better equipped to take that chance.
yeah, both those guys are small centers though. It's tough.
Yeah, yeah, I think they're a team that could take that chance though, and I think they could view Robert Williams as a good lob target for
Yeah, maybe.
Trey because Trey is really good at throwing lobs. So yeah, I do like this. I do like this. At the end, maybe we should say what our favorite trade idea is, although I'm going to forget half of them, so that might be too hard. Rohan had, oh boy, a five-teamer. The Blazers are getting Zion again. And you also have CJ. You also have CJ in this trade. Can I, is that big enough to read, chat? Or should I just make it bigger and just, on the right, CJ's going to Orlando, which I actually think like that might be the top team to trade for CJ. We've talked about them needing that archetype. CJ's been really good lately. I could see him making sense in Orlando. So yeah, there. We'll keep his face barely on the screen. Okay, now I can read this. So let's just start from the right. All right, the Magic trade KCP, Gary Harris, and a 2025 Denver first-round pick for CJ. What do you think of that value, Eric? We'll go team by team here. And you're muted, by the way, if you're talking.
What was it?
Orlando trades KCP, Gary Harris, and a 2025 Denver first for CJ McCollum.
Yeah, I don't know if they're giving up KCP for that, but I mean they got to make the salaries work, I guess. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe
That's
Cole
all right.
Anthony instead,
I
and
don't,
another piece.
I don't think they're giving up a first either for CJ.
I mean, it's a Denver first. I feel like if a team's going to give up a first for CJ, Orlando would make a ton of sense.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, I feel like CJ's a good fit next to Jalen Suggs because Jalen Suggs can guard the best guard, play on or off the ball. Like, they need some scoring help. CJ could shoot, play on or off the ball. I don't know. I think that's reasonable suggestion there. The Kings trade a 2031 lottery protected first, Devin Carter, Trey Lyles, Kevin Herter for Jeremy Grant. I think that's just a little too rich for Grant. I don't think a team's going to give up a lottery pick from last year and even a lottery protected first for
Agreed.
Grant. Unfortunately, I wish. The Pistons trade a 2027 first round pick and Tim Hardaway for Anthony Simons.
That's not bad.
Yeah, that's reasonable. I like that for the Pistons. The Pelicans trade this is kind of like a similar trade we had. Oh God, I just saw a name. The Pelicans trade Zion for
I was wondering why you put this one.
I mean, we're viewing every single trade.
Right.
I think there was like one I skipped over because it was a little too trolly, I think. But the Pelicans trade Zion for Ayton, KCP, Scoot Henderson, and 2 future firsts. That might be a little too much for Zion. That's a really good haul for Zion at this point for the Pelicans. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd probably do that if I was the Pelicans.
Yeah. And then the Blazers trade Grant, Simons, and Scoot and Ayton for Zion, Herder, Hardaway, Lyles, Harris, Devin Carter, and a 2027 Detroit first, which would probably have some protections on it. I do not like that. Eric?
No.
I no.
Also, we'd have to, I think, cut 2 players too on top of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about that. Goodbye, Bam. Goodbye, Walker. Goodbye to whoever. Reith. But I just do not. No. Get back Herder. Like, I guess, like, the pieces here that matter: Zion, Devin Carter, that first round pick from Detroit.
Why are we trading both Simons and Scoot?
Yeah, like, what's the point of trading Scoot here? You're trading Scoot to get Zion. I just don't like the logic behind that because Zion has so many red flags. It's like, even though he's a good player, he's struggles to be impactful because he's always hurt and, like, has locker room issues, right? Like, I'd rather just hope that Scoot can fulfill some of his upside than, like, take somebody like Zion that we know has legitimate issues. So, yeah. Chat, would you do this trade? Let me know. All right, we got Rohan. He sent in 2. Look at his notification there. Because we don't crop images, I guess. All right. Maybe he's a Texans fan and just wanted to remind this whole stream that the Texans won today. All right. So the Blazers trade. Oh, is this a... Oh, this is a multi-team trade in different screenshots. Okay, so let me try and bring up the other screenshot.
Just some advice for people who do trade ideas. If you have like 17 players involved in a bunch of stuff, like, it's just, your trade's probably not happening. So
the thing is
like that last one I'm talking about, like.
Yeah. Wait, did I save the same one twice? Yeah. Oh no. Okay, here we go. All right. I'm just confused. Okay, so the Blazers, just ignore the Blazers have the same thing twice, all right? So the Bucks trade Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, and a 2031 top 5 protected first round pick for Jeremy Grant and Robert Williams. Oh, also Chris Middleton. Yeah, or I said Chris Middleton. Okay, so Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, a 2031 first for Jeremy Grant and Robert Williams. I don't like that for Milwaukee. I think Chris Middleton for Jeremy Grant maybe straight up, but Bobby Portis and a future first for Robert Williams feels a little too rich. What do you think, Eric? It's close enough where I could say it's maybe reasonable. Like, it's not the worst.
Yeah, I don't think it's the worst one. I don't know about that.
It's like it feels a little rich, but it's worthy having a conversation about it, right? And that's what we're looking for. Detroit gets Bobby Portis and Matisse Thybulle for Tim Hardaway Jr.
I do not think Portis is a bad fit for Detroit, but I would say Matisse is probably the worst fit I can think of for Detroit. They already have Holland and Usher Thompson, who do not shoot well.
Him, though. Like,
no, I know. I'm just saying, like,
who's their backup? Isaiah Stewart. Like, Bobby Portis is an upgrade on him, and you got some shooters. I don't know. I don't hate Hardaway for Bobby Portis for them. Just that in itself, and Thybulle's just throw in for whatever. It's reasonable enough. The Blazers trade Grant and Williams in Thibault for Chris Middleton, Tim Hardaway Jr., and a 2031 Milwaukee first. If you can flip Middleton for another first and like an expiring, yeah. What do you think about it for the Blazers? Would you take that?
I'd probably do this, but I don't think the other teams do.
I think this is one of those where it's like sometimes the best trade ideas are some of those where it's like, I don't think I'd really do it for any of the teams because like at least that it's fair. And there's been 3-team trades where I'm like, I don't really know if I like that for any of the teams. So sometimes those are the best 3-team trades to come up with is the ones where it's like, I don't know about that for any of them. All right. Next trade idea. That was from Rodham. All right, we got Swish Bruh breaking out the ESPN trade machine. Swish Bruh. We got to get you on Fanspo, bruh. We got the Blazers trading Jeremy Grant for Kevin Huerter and Keegan Murray. I don't like it. I don't want Keegan.
You don't want the Murray brothers
United? No. We get double the Cedar Rapids references.
I can't think of a worse trade for Torrey. Unless it was Scoot for Keegan Murray.
Like, the thing is, like, what? Are you going to start Keegan Murray ahead of Avdia? I don't like that. I don't even know if I'd start him ahead of Kamara, bro.
Is Keegan even better than Chris at this point?
Yeah, I mean, Keegan's been awful this year, so I'm just not a Keegan Murray fan. Some people would like this trade if they're higher on Keegan Murray, so it's a legitimate proposal. I'm just not a Keegan fan.
I think this is decent value for Jeremy, but I would be flipping Huerter and Murray to another team.
Yeah. If you like take back both those guys, it's just kind of like, what is the plan? All right. Next up, we have Tyler Cornwall. As you can see there, the Blazers get back Yusuf Nurkic. All right. So,
let's go.
Yeah. Our dream come true.
I love it already.
The Blazers, a simple two-teamer. The Blazers trade Robert Williams, Delano Banton, and a second-round pick for Yusuf Nurkic and a top 8 protected 2031 first-round pick. Your thoughts, Eric? You get back a first for Rob Will.
If I don't have to put in the second rounder, no, I mean not that that's a deal breaker or anything. Yeah. I might hold out for a little bit less protection, but yeah, I consider this.
I could see something like this happening. The thing is like how Phoenix would be trying to wrap up this probably in another deal to take on a player from another team because they're like really restricted due to the CBA, so they would probably like want to try to upgrade more attached to this trade because there is almost a $6 million difference between Rob Will and Yusuf Nurkic. So I don't know. Like I could see them try and get creative and like pivot off of this in order to make something else happen as well. That's a very legit trade idea from Tyler.
Nurkic and Ayton on the same team.
Yeah. We get them both.
Please trade Ayton if that's the case. I just can't handle both.
Yeah. See, like, if we had Nurkic back next year, like, off the bench behind Klingon, it's not the worst thing. He'd be an expiring next year. Like, it's fine. You know, bring Nurk off the bench behind him, play him 18 minutes. All right, next trade idea is from our guy Brendan. It's another Orlando one. I think we've already seen this one before from somebody else. See, like there's a lot of Orlando Anthony stuff. Yeah. So Anthony, Chris Murray,
we've already talked about
Cole Anthony, Gary Harris, Jet Howard, and a 2027 first round pick. We've talked about this trade. Thank you, Brendan. Though, just wanted to show some love. We got another one from Brendan, which is a more unique one. All right. So I'll just, in case it's too hard to read, I'll just say it, okay? So the Blazers trade Jeremy Grant, Delano Banton, and Matisse Thybulle. They get back Lonzo Ball's expiring contract, Trey Lyles' expiring contract, Chris Duarte's expiring contract, Devin Carter, and their first-round pick back from Chicago. Okay. The Kings trade Trey Lyles and Devin Carter and Kevin Huerter for Jeremy Grant and Delano Banton. And the Bulls trade Lonzo Ball, Duarte, and Portland's first back to them for Kevin Huerter and Matisse Thybulle. I like this trade for Portland. I like this trade for the Kings. I don't really understand the Bulls side of it, but it's a pretty decent idea. I don't. It's hard to see. So the Bulls. Go ahead.
I was say I could see the Bulls wanting Herder for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels ballsy. You know what I mean? It feels like It feels ballsy, which I think is what he was going for with this one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty decent, man, because that's the thing. It's like different teams are going to go for different things if you know their history. The Blazers, you get back Carter and you get your first back. There's multiple reasons to get your first-round pick back, okay? If you guys get 100 likes on the stream, I'll explain why. We're 23 away. We're at 77. Okay? Because some people think it does not matter for the Blazers to get their pick back, but that is very untrue, okay? And there was 4 reasons why. So I do like that. For Grant, Banton, Thybulle, you get your pick back, and you get Devin Carter and all expirings on top of that. I would do that. I would do that pretty easily if I was the Blazers. Would you?
Oh yeah, I would do this. For the record, though, Devin Carter off the bench last night had some huge baskets on the road as the Kings pulled away from Boston in the second half. I don't know if now that he's playing again, if they're willing to move him or not. But
I do like that they get Grant without giving up a first, you know?
Yeah. If there would have been a first from Sacramento too, I'd say that's way too much. Yeah. But I do think that's fairly fair for most of the teams. But
yep. Good job, Brendan. Props to you. All right, we got 3 more. Actually, no, we got 2 more because we already looked at Smogs, all right? This next one I actually think is like maybe the most likely outcome for Thybulle. Okay. Can you guess what it is? What do you think is like
Cavs?
Well, like think about like players and what the Blazers would want. It's probably too hard to make you guess, but
it's an expiring in
a
second.
I actually came across this like last night and was like, yeah, it's an expiring in a second. All right, I'll pop it on the screen.
Well, that's what I was just saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, you're right on that part. There's the trade, Eric.
This is the PJ Tucker one.
PJ Tucker and a second-round pick for Thybulle.
Yeah.
I think that's the most likely.
Yeah, I do. I just cut PJ because he doesn't want to be here. So
and get back a second. So, like, yeah, it made sense to match Thybulle. We got a 2031 Clippers second that we can trade for cash in 7 years, 6 years. So
I could see the Blazers saying, we value Thybulle too much to trade him for a second.
I know. God. Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing is like trade like this, like, yeah, we do it. But like people were so angry at me for suggesting not to match Thybulle's contract. But like, I feel like most people just be like, sure, yeah, you know, what's the point of keeping Thybulle? So it's just funny. But yeah, like this is legit. Try and get a second round pick and say, we gifted you Norman Powell. Can you repay that favor a little bit? All right. And then so common trade is Ant to Orlando, and then another common trade, this last one, is Grant to Sacramento. Blazers get back Kevin Huerter, Trey Lyles, Devin Carter, 2027 first round pick from Sacramento. They get back Jeremy Grant. We've kind of already talked about this. I think this is too much value. Like you said earlier, Eric, like if there's a first on top of Devin Carter, it's probably too much for Grant. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were those just the Twitter ones?
Those were Twitter and Discord.
Oh.
Do you have any that you want to toss on the trade machine? Because it is trade idea night, so. I can pop up the trade machine here.
Well, Alex Wolf says he had one that we didn't talk about.
Oh, we had Julio submit one. Like, Alex, where'd you submit yours, bro? Oh, you submitted yours before. He submitted it before I sent out the prompt. I can just read this one off because it's pretty simple. All right. So the Blazers trade Ayton. They get back Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. It's expiring contracts for Ayton. Okay. The Pelicans trade Brandon Ingram for Ayton. Straight up. Don't like that for the Pelicans. The Pistons trade Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. for Brandon Ingram. Like, yeah, they do that in a heartbeat probably. Like, even if they don't know if Ingram's going to resign. So Alex Wolf said, okay, so this is my logic. Portland gets an expiring contract in maybe seconds from New Orleans and can maybe flip Tobias. Next year is a big expiring. Yeah, Tobias has 2 years. I said expiring. I was misreading that. Yeah, maybe flip Tobias. Yeah. New Orleans finally gets their center in draft capital from Detroit, I would assume. Yeah, they would need draft capital. They already got their center. It's Yves Missy. He's as good as Ayton is. So, yeah, it just depends on, like, the draft capital from Detroit for Ingram. But I just don't think the Pelicans are going to value getting back Ayton if they're trading Ingram.
Yeah, I don't think they want Ayton for Ingram.
Yeah, like and they got Yves Missy. Like I just don't really see what the direction is there. So, Body Counts earlier had a trade idea that had the Blazers sending Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simons to the Pistons, getting back Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. as well as 1 first-round pick and 5 second-round picks.
Yeah, I mean, we already talked a little bit about.
I think if Grant is like has no value, yeah, you probably do that. If you're also deciding to trade Ant and he probably doesn't have great value, like sure, but I don't know. It just feels a little light for the Blazers. I think Detroit would probably take that though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Damn. 83 likes. Can't even reach 100 likes for my trade idea. Maybe I just share it and see what you guys think. I think you've probably seen it, Eric, if you've been paying attention to the GC. So I'm curious. Actually, I do want to share it because I want to get your thoughts on this before I toss it in a video. And I kind of just want to see the reaction in this chat after going through all these compared to the reaction in the video. On the video comments. So let's see what we can do here. Let me set up Fanspo. I need to have a Fanspo scene already set up. This thing just doesn't want to connect anything today. Don't know why. There we go. All right. Cool. All right, so Eric, let me know how much you agree with this. Oh, my phone is dead. I saved the screenshot. The reasons why it makes sense for Portland to get back their first-round pick, okay? Number one, people keep saying, like, Portland's pick is never going to convey. Well, if it never conveys, it does turn into 2 second-round picks, all right? If you get their pick back, even if they remain a lottery team, you get those 2 second-round picks back. That gets traded if it never conveys, okay? So it's not like you're trading nothing if it stays in the lottery, number one. Number two, if the Blazers finally make the playoffs in 2028, that's the year they have swap rights with Milwaukee's first-round pick. If that's the first year the Blazers make the playoffs in Milwaukee, maybe they suck. Maybe they have the number one pick. If it's the first year the Blazers make the playoffs, that means their pick conveys to Chicago that year. That means they can't trade it for Milwaukee's first-round pick, and they miss out on potentially the number one overall pick in the 2028 draft because they never got their first back from Chicago. You know, even if it's like Milwaukee has the 10th pick and Portland maybe otherwise would have had the 23rd pick, right? Like, you want to be able to swap up to 10. You want to be able to actually swap picks with Milwaukee in 2028. That was part of the justification for the Dame trade. So that matters, okay? Also, it matters in terms of being able to easily trade out future first-round picks if you want to. Now, is that realistic? Maybe not, but you want to have the option, potentially. And then there's a fourth reason that I forget, but there's some reasons for Portland to trade for their first-round pick back. Do you agree with those, or do you have any thoughts on the Blazers' first-round pick they owe Chicago right now, Eric?
No. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I get it. Excited to see what you have cooked up.
Okay. So let me just. All right, chat. Get to 100 likes, okay, since I'm doing this for y'all. All right. Trade number one. Okay. I feel like you've heard me talk about this trade. I think you have. Okay. It's Houston. It's Grant to the Rockets. It's Robert Williams to the Rockets. Okay. The Blazers get back Steven Adams, expiring contract. Jeff Green's expiring contract. Jock Landale's expiring contracts. The last 2 years are non-guaranteed. They get back Jayshawn Tate's expiring contract. And they get back Cam Whitmore.
Did you see Elizabeth Allen's comment?
No.
He said he took this to some Houston Rocket forum or something, and they destroyed him.
This trade?
The one you said the other day about Grant and Williams for that package.
Yeah, I don't really see the issue with it. So you don't have a good backup center behind Şengün, okay? Robert Williams, really good backup center behind Şengün. Now, can he play enough minutes to be worthwhile there? I'm not sure. Okay, maybe you flip him to a third team and get another asset to the Rockets with Grant, okay? You basically would have a 9-man rotation consisting of your guards being Van Vliet, Jalen Green, Amen Thompson, your forwards being Dylan Brooks, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith, Jeremy Grant, and your bigs being Şengün and Robert Williams III. And all of them are good enough that if somebody gets hurt, you can easily make it an 8-man rotation for the playoffs, right? Cam Whitmore's body language is terrible there in Houston right now. And they're not playing him much. They don't really have a pathway to development for him. Okay? Now, the problem is if you take most Jeremy Grant trades to other fan bases, they view him as a terrible contract and a negative asset. Okay? So, does not surprise me. But Robert Williams could be a very big value for them. Şengün's not the best defender. It would be good to have a really good defensive big behind him, in my opinion. Okay? So you're trading players that you don't really play at all in Cam Whitmore for two guys that would factor in for your rotation for the playoffs.
He's saying they value both Cam as a asset in a package for a star along with these contracts.
What star are they going to get?
I don't know. I'm just saying.
No. I'm not saying this to you. Okay.
I mean, it's just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
they've been linked to Fox. They've been linked to Butler.
Yeah. This is more so like you don't get Fox, you don't get Butler. Okay. Obviously, if you can go get one of those guys, you go get one of those guys. But there's going to be a lot of other teams that want one of those guys. Well, maybe not Jimmy Butler. Phoenix. The thing is you got to be willing to pay Jimmy Butler for him to want to go to your team, supposedly. So I don't really see why. I don't know. Is Jimmy Butler really worth it? I'm not sure. So I get it. But I do think this. Would you take this for Portland, Eric?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I take this pretty quickly. You're all expirings. The only contract on the books is Cam Whitmore after this season from these 5 guys. Okay. So that's the ideal type of trade. And Cam Whitmore has a lot of upside, good young player. Taking a chance on that would be great. Okay. The other trade I had, okay, is with Chicago on the heels of them trading Vucevic elsewhere. All right. It's Ayton there. The Blazers get back Lonzo. Okay. Also throw in Chris Duarte. Okay, that's 2 expiring contracts for Ayton. Now, what you do if you're Portland, you have 2 first-round picks in 2029 right now. You have the best of Boston, Milwaukee, and Portland, and you have the worst of Boston, Milwaukee, and Portland. You trade the worst of that pick to the Bulls, you get your first-round pick back. Okay, maybe you attach a couple of seconds. Whatever. And that's your trade. Okay, I'll throw in, a couple of seconds. If you can do it without the seconds, you do it without the seconds. But you get off Ayton's salary, you get your own first-round pick back, which some people think doesn't matter, but just state the reasons why it does. Okay. The Bulls get the worst of 2029 first between Milwaukee, Boston, and Portland. So Portland, you can justify giving up the worst, right? Because it's going to be the worst of the 3. But if you're Chicago, you can justify it as we're getting back a for sure first-round pick. We're replacing Vucevic with somebody that can maybe fit our timeline for a pick that has a decent chance of just turning into a couple of seconds, and we still get a couple of seconds in this trade. Your thoughts, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, trying to get rid of Ayton. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would be pissed off if we did this.
Yeah, I think this is like the most realistic path to getting off of Ayton. Now, if you're Portland, you can justify this as like, oh, we didn't just dump Ayton. We didn't attach assets to Ayton. Like, we need to get our first-round pick back. We need to be able to swap it. We want the flexibility of having all our future firsts without having them tied up and owed to Chicago. And we were willing to give up the worst of 3 teams pick in 2029 for that. It wasn't just attaching assets to Ayton to dump them, even though that's kind of what it is, right? So, like, Portland, you can justify it as not just a salary dump, which I think might matter to this front office. So I think, like, on the heels of the Bulls trading Vucevic elsewhere, this is maybe the most realistic trade I can think of that I would do for Portland involving DeAndre and going somewhere else. Because obviously you could attach, like, 2 firsts and probably get rid of them, but I don't want to do that, right? This actually makes some sort of sense. And then Chicago, he's a big expiring that they can try and use in a trade next year or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but the big thing here is Portland ends up with these 2 trades, trading out Grant, Robert Williams, and Ayton. Okay. They get back all expirings in Cam Whitmore and their first round pick back for that 2029 worst of 3 teams pick. Okay. You save so much money in the offseason. Now, you would then try and trade like Matisse Thybulle for PJ Tucker. Like, I would be willing to do that straight up. the Blazers would have like $50-60 million of cap space this offseason. I'm not sure how much, okay? And the point is, while the return here might not seem to be that much, you would have so much flexibility in the offseason to take on contracts and accumulate assets that these trades would end up really paying off in the offseason, because with the new CBA, there's going to be teams that are going to look to shed salary to make moves and are going to need a team that can take on salary. Okay? Mm-hmm. And if Portland can be that team, you could end up getting probably at least a first-round pick because you made these trades. So at the end of the day, you traded out Ayton, Grant, Robert Williams. You swap a likely bad 2029 first for first back. You get back another first, and you get back Cam Whitmore. And you'd probably still have more flexibility to do more things on top of that. That, to me, is the ideal deadline for the Blazers where, like, it feels like, okay, I could see this for the couple other teams. Now, maybe there's a team out there you can try and replace Houston with. It's just easy because they have, like, those big expiring contracts, and I could see both players being valuable to them. And Cam Whitmore, obviously, is a really good piece to have for the Blazers rebuild. So, like, that's my dream, not completely unrealistic trade deadline.
Yeah.
So, like, if you can do both those trades, if you're Cronin, you do those in a freaking heartbeat. And if he made those trades, I'll also get excited because it's like, oh, he has a plan. Oh, look, he's going to have all this flexibility. Like, he's making a trade to make his rebuild easier. And the thing is, for me, is like, if they finally went into the mode where, like, yeah, we're gonna have flexibility to accumulate assets, I would be super excited because, like, finally you're getting to that stage of the rebuild. Finally. It's about freaking time. You clear a runway for your young guys, like, so that's my ideal deadline for the Blazers.
Yeah, not bad.
So
I think I'd be happy they just did some stuff.
I know. Yeah. Because, like, you're not even trading Ant in those trades. You still have all that flexibility. If you get Yakuchonis or Dylan Harper, right, then you can go and see, like, okay, what can we do for Ant? Right? You figure it out. Or, I don't know, maybe then you trade Scoot, but you at least go into the offseason with Ant on the team and see what things look like and have flexibility to pivot. I mean, maybe it's not even trading for an asset. Maybe it's signing a veteran like the Wizards did with Valanciunas, and the deadline you trade him for a first-round pick. That's another way that the flexibility opened up from these trades can pay off with assets. And that's the thing. You're not going to get 2 first-round picks for Jeremy Grant, but if you get a good young player by attaching Robert Williams to him, like a Cam Whitmore in expirings, or let's just say you get expirings and a single first-round pick, and then with other trades you can open up more cap space, then you can go and get your second first-round pick for Jeremy Grant in a roundabout way. You know what I mean? So the way to maximize value is to value flexibility on top of the assets you get for your rebuild, whether it's a Cam Whitmore, whether it's a future first-round pick, whatever it is, and then use that flexibility to accumulate more assets. That is the way to maximize Jeremy Grant and his trade return. It's a 2-step process. It's not a 1-step process. So the Blazers need to have that wherewithal to realize that.
Yeah, I don't have any faith that they will, but I agree.
So, cool. Alrighty. So that's our trade review post-game. Man, that went long. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. We're 3 hours into the stream. Hopefully you guys are enjoying your weekends. And, the Blazers lose to Miami. Let's just take a quick look at the schedule before we hop out of here. All right. The Blazers' next game is Tuesday. That's against the Nets. That's the team they're tied with in the tank race right now, Eric. So can they lose? They got a bunch of home games. That would be a nice game to lose for the tank. Really would.
Yeah, it would.
And you got the Clippers, right? We're going to do a mock draft on our next post game. And then the following week, early times on Tuesday and Thursday are not good for scheduling, Eric, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure out what that looks like. But yeah, man, shot night on Saturday. Let me know if you're down. But that's what I have tentatively scheduled because I moved around a couple of things given those early times on Tuesday and Thursday. So.
And on Sunday, January 19th, my daughter is taking me to that game as my Christmas present.
Nice.
So I'll be going to that one.
Cool. Yeah. So since I'm not going, post-game will still start at normal time. If anybody's going to the game on the 16th, that's Shade and Sharp Glass night. I'll give you some money for a Shade and Sharp glass, okay? So if you can hook it up. Because I already got a deal for a Klinging glass. I just need to meet up with Stephen Vaughn to trade one of my Scoot glasses for a Klinging glass, and then I want a Sharp glass. I want the whole collection. So if you're going, I want to hook someone up, hook up your guy with a Sharp glass. I would greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate it. Anyway, that's the schedule coming up for the Blazers. Anything else, Eric?
Thanks, everyone, for watching, and thanks for the overwhelming amount of trade ideas. You guys did great. Not necessarily with your trade ideas, but just the sheer volume of them was good. So.
Yeah. I mean, some of you guys have pretty reasonable ones, and it's tough to come up with reasonable trade ideas. So,
no, I'm just teasing. Thanks for all.
You know, I just appreciate you guys trying your best. All right, we reward effort around here, so thank you guys for participating. Greatly appreciate it. But yeah, that's a wrap for this post-game stream. Hopefully you enjoyed Shop Bet US. Need to look at lines, man. I keep saying we're gonna look at lines, and then it's like, oh no, we've run out of time and we're doing too much. So, but shout out to them. Check them out. Use promo code YouTube150 right there on the screen. 150% sign-up bonus, followed by two 125% bonuses up to $2,000 with that promo code YouTube150. Get in on the NFL playoffs. Get in on college basketball. Get in on the NBA. Get in on the college football championship. Whatever you want to get in on, they got it. Shout out to them. We're out of here. We'll be live again on Monday for Picks Against the Spread on our second channel. Links down there in the description box below. All right, and then we'll have another post-game show. As I said on Tuesday, looking forward to doing a mock draft. I think we're going to try and do all 60 picks. Also, Arrow's going to be participating with us, assuming he's free. So we'll have him in a Discord. He can make some picks as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so that should be fun. Looking forward to that. Make sure you join that post-game stream. Anyway, we're out of here. This has been the Blazers Uprise post-game show powered by BetUS. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your night or morning with this late stream, man. 3 hours, and these streams get longer and longer this time of year. So looking forward to the trade deadline. Less than a month away. Have a video tomorrow talking about that trade idea I just talked about. So go support that video. Leave a like on the video. Leave a like on the live stream. Easiest way to support the channel. We greatly appreciate that as well. And we are out of here. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers!